this is different. And I love it, man, because it got me thinking like I was back at school again. I don't even know where you come up with these questions. I want to know how you come up with these kids. You're so innovative. I'm like, look, I mean, your mind is, like you said, you're a history teacher, and your mind is going all over the place. So,
and it's also wonderful to hear people talk sanely to each other.
You have something amazing going with the show because you're there and you're educating us.
Sure. Your platform gives us an opportunity to really let our guard down. And I've never told anybody in public about that experience with my dad. And on your platform, I don't know why I did that, because it's so comfortable and we're talking about things that matter.
I love the little anecdote of comedy with your would you pay for it? Would you not? That I love that. I love how you added that in to kind of break up the tension a little bit, because it gets serious.
We want to know people's stories, and that's what TKN does, So I love
uplifting human being. Last name Ferrigno, first name Lou. Lou, welcome, my friend.
Thank you. That's the best introduction I've ever heard in my life. You know something? You need to quit the show and be my moderator.
Avi is a poet, but he doesn't know it, but his feet show it. You're unbelievable.
Last name Wilkins, first name Lenny. Lenny, welcome, my friend, to the celebrity tournament.
Well, thank you for having me, and I'm excited about it. I'm looking forward to this. It should be fun.
Last name Murphy, first name Calvin. Calvin, welcome to the tournament, my friend.
Damn. You said it just like I wrote it.
But these rhymes are going to wind down as I've reached the home stretch, the one and only stretch.
I appreciate it. A lot of these rappers out there. You gave me good eargasm tonight, man. I love your voice. I love the things that you talk about.
Well, you're the best I've seen. You're the Michael Jordan or LeBron James, whoever you want to make the GOAT.
This is why your audiences love you. This is why you continue to great guests, and great guests beget great guests.
I mean, yes, pain is inevitable. I mean, there's a reason we have these sensors in our body. I mean, they're warning signs. In other words, something hurts. Obviously, something is amiss.
But she would sit at the kitchen table looking out the window for quite a period of time while the food was getting prepared. And I wish I had took that time to sit down with her and ask her questions about her being a child, along with my aunts, my uncles, so I could not only be a blessing to her and know more and sympathize and love her more as a mother, but also to know more about myself and my sisters and understand where we've come from.
This thing has drawn me out of myself and thereby drawn me into myself. But I learned a lot. And from you, Avi, I always learned something from you.
Continue to work as hard as you can, because by working, Avi, you will keep yourself busy and get used to the grief.
More underrated, we have Billy D. Williams, Italian men named Skippy, or Unicycle.
I'm sorry, Italian men named Skippy. Put me away, Avi.
Archie Bunker, the mountain climber. Ralph Cramden, the yoga instructor. Or Don Corleone, the computer repair person.
It's clearly an issue with the hard drive.
I'm going to go Don Corleone.
Here, the reason I'm going for Christmas is because it does create those amazing memories that and Sarge, I know you've been there too, because I've seen you at so many different great events for Muscular Dystrophy Association.
You compete with yourself. So Joe Reed, especially working with him, taking pictures in the magazine, helping me to shape my body and educate my mind.
There are those of us who like to venture to the unexplored, to see the beauty in the strange and unknown. Those of us who go out there with a sense of wonder.
God, matters not how strait the gate, how punishment charged the scroll. I am the master of my fate. I am the captain of my soul.
There is nothing that was on TV tonight that even remotely rivals what we did on this broadcast.
Hi, I'm Rick Barry, a member of the Basketball Hall of Fame and one of the NBA's top 50 players. And I'm really excited to tell you about my new relationship in the broadcasting world with the new network.
It's TKN, and a young man named Avi Klein has poured his blood, sweat, and tears into creating this new network and assembling an amazing group of individuals.
Legends from every walk of life who are just bringing their knowledge and their experience and their wisdom, and this is amazing. I feel like this is a cosmic convergence of what is most important to him, and he's such a stand-up guy.
Avi, congratulations. I don't know anybody that can talk as much as you. Seriously, I thought I could talk. You are unreal. What you do it with class, understanding, professionalism, you're simply amazing. I told you that when I first met you, and you ran off my autobiography. It basically was a book. It was simply fantastic. And to think that you do that every show.
It's very respectful, and he really connects with the artists and his audiences, and I felt like this guy's on to something, and I'm proud to be a part of this with him.
And I really thank your support. I lost my father, and you were the first person to support me in all that, and I thank you so much for that.
The greatest wealth is when you can share it with someone. You can share your victories, you can share your failure, you can express your deepest feelings, but the greatest wealth is to be able to say that I have a friend, and I feel an unbelievable level of wealth, and a lot of that is because I have somebody like you.
Are you here to win the whole darn tournament?
I don't play. I just win.
Robert, would you like to win this entire tournament?
You know, all those luminaries and athletes and strongmen notwithstanding, the most dangerous place on this show is between me and that prize. That's all I'm going to say.
You're chomping at the bit to get in this thing.
Oh, yeah, man. I've been telling you, brother. You brought up some names to me, and I was like, I can't wait. I hope they don't see me because it's going to be on like a steaming pot of neck bones, baby, and I'm not playing.
Are you here to win the entire thing, my friend?
I'll just say this, Avi. Winner, chicken dinner.
But are you here to win the entire celebrity tournament when it's all said and done?
I saw a very familiar face in Mike Rotundo, better known as IRS, and he said that he was here for the winner chicken dinner, and I want to take away that chicken dinner, so yes, I want to win this whole shebang.
Last name Smith, first name Joe. Joe Smith, welcome, my friend.
Oh my God, Avi. Where did you get all of that from? Oh my God.
Giselle!
Hello, Howard. I am stoked for tonight. Do you know why?
It is a double feature of amazing proportion.
We have not one, not two, not three. How many celebrities are on tonight?
We got
four. And if you are excited about tonight and love what happens tonight, then you need to tune in next week as well, because we are here every Saturday night. And the best way to know what's going to happen next week is to stick around for that all-important outro at the end of the broadcast, which gives you a first glimpse into next week's match and episode. And I hear, correct me if I'm wrong, Howard, I hear the big one.
It's going to be huge, huge. It's I hear steerings underground and so many things in the air, but it's going to be a huge match, and I cannot wait to see what it's going to be. And so if you guys are watching right now, stick around, okay? And because it's going to be a good one, guys.
It is, but before we get to that, we have the exciting conclusion of our Hall of Fame trio match. This very evening, we will see the second topic of DVon Dudley, WWE Hall of Famer, Calvin Murphy, NBA Hall of Famer, and Grant Fuhr, NHL Hall of Famer. We will hear the end of their match. We will see their second topic, and we still need you to vote. The votes from last week have been tallied. We have all those counted. We'll hear their second topic. We need you to vote tonight during that match.
Definitely. And then after and then we also got something else coming up for that, don't we, Giselle?
Oh, we do. And I am super excited for this one because tonight, for the very first time, someone we have never seen before will be on the green room in a conversation with Avi. Now, who is this person, Howard? What do we know about this person so far?
Oscar nominee, all right, has that amazing moniker, Oscar nominee. So they've obviously done amazing work. So they're a storyteller. I'm excited to hear about the craft tonight, baby. Woo!
I am. Hey, Miranda. Chad, can't wait to see topic 2. Yep. So we have that conversation. They're an Oscar nominee. They are also a multi-time award winner. They've never been on before. Is it possible this person will be an 11th hour participant in the celebrity tournament?
That's a great question. They could possibly be. I mean, we saw Larry Hankin, right? Came on and was amazing, had a great display. So you never know. We've seen it before.
We have. Myron says it is going to be a great event, and I could not agree more with you, Myron. It is definitely going to be a great event and special, Phil, as well. Yes, a great event and special. And as Howard said, Larry Hankin showed up, and nobody was expecting that. So who could this person be? There are some favorites we haven't seen yet that we've been waiting, but we know it won't be them tonight because, well, they've been on the green room before. So we know it's not Martin Kove. We know it's not Jeff Tate. We know it's not Barry Bostwick.
Nope.
Who could this be, Howard?
I have no idea. We do not know. But there is one way to find out, ain't there, Giselle?
Ooh. Are you ready?
I am ready. So without further ado, let's get this conversation going, baby.
Guys and gals and pals, defining is the refining fire by which talent becomes ability. Aristotle said it is the mark of an educated mind to be able to entertain a thought without accepting it. And guys and gals, we want to talk about educated minds. Wait till you see our guest right now. The latter, guys and gals, rings true, and it does epitomize my guest. 100% wholeheartedly. The following guest has given life to hundreds of nameless spirits who have all made us laugh and cry. His work epitomizes the unselfish collaboration, as he's created such great harmony with fellow colleagues. He's a remarkable and fascinating human being with layers of depth, going several orders of magnitude deep. And he has shared that intimate understanding of the self with a public audience. But before I introduce him, let's hop into the old DeLorean and set it back to July of 42. 1 week after gaining U.S. citizenship, the British-born movie star Cary Grant married the socialite heiress Barbara Hutton at Lake Arrowwood, California. Joseph Stalin began moving massive numbers of troops into the Stalingrad area. Remember my documentary on Stalingrad, guys and gals? What a battle that was. The sports drama film The Pride of the Yankees, starring Gary Cooper as Lou Gehrig, was released. NBC Radio Orchestra's performance, widely regarded as the most streamed performance of the century, is broadcast live. The Ride of the Yankees is released. The 10th MLB All-Star Game is played in New York. Bing Crosby recorded Irving Berlin's White Christmas for Decca Records. Wartime coffee rationing began in the U.S. Kellogg's Raisin Bran is unintroduced, thankfully. The Manhattan Project was officially created. U.S. car makers, for making cars to making war materials. That was the transition that happened in 42. And of course, my first kiss is only 43 years away from coming to fruition. The ladies wait in anticipation. And born into this world are Richard Roundtree, Ronnie James Dio, Harrison Ford, Mil Mascaris, and my next guest. He grew up in West Virginia in a coal mining town in which he worked part-time. Mingling with customers at his father's restaurant was a treat. Did he drop that dime, learn to rhyme, and communicate before reaching his prime? Sure. He mastered the art of speaking to people from many walks of life. For a storyteller to be, I find that to be absolute perfection for a man who knows all too well about human connection. He attended West Virginia University, where he graduated magna cum laude with a Bachelor of Arts degree in speech and drama. This man's body of work is so vast and diverse, forgive me for inserting a plethora of commas. Yeah, I could have rhymed drama with mama, but that would have been too easy. Moving to New York in the late 60s, he was immediately cast in the soap opera The Guiding Light. Over a decade and a half later is when we marveled at his performance in A Night Filled with Fright. He garnered an Academy Award and Oscar nomination opposite Al Pacino in Sidney Lumet's Dog Day Afternoon. A decade later, he was quite the heavy, a prince born with a silver spoon. He loved the element of surprise in his career, including how an audience might react. He won't take them, but he deserves his roses due to his commitment to the craft. That is a fact. He's taken many a blank canvas and filled it with beautiful works of art. I better finish these rhymes before my audience loses it and attempts to rip me apart. Please welcome my guest, a man that is world-renowned across the globe, from Mumbai to Shanghai, Austin to Boston, Aruba to Cuba, Angola to Pensacola, Arizona to Barcelona, Daytona to Verona, Alaska to Nebraska, Bombay to L.A., Sudan to Japan, Montreal to Nepal, Minnesota to North Dakota, Alaska to Nebraska, Bombay to L.A., Sudan to Japan, and guys and gals, I truly hope he enjoyed this intro and isn't scarred. Perhaps I've even impressed the good old bard. Yes, we're about to enter a state of absolute bliss, so no need to hiss as I welcome a humble, talented, down-to-earth human being, last name Sarandon, first name Chris. Welcome, my friend.
Thank you, Avi, for that spirited introduction.
Well, you deserve every bit of it, my friend. How are you doing today?
Doing great. I have a great life, I must say, and I'm busy at this point in my life, which a lot of my friends have either passed on or are passing the time. Otherwise, I'm industrious. I've got a garden. I've got a podcast. I'm having a great time in my life. Oh, and I also have wonderful family, 4 kids, 9 grandchildren, a wonderful wife, a very talented wife, a director, writer, actress. She's an extraordinary woman. So God, my life is full. And now you enter it.
Hopefully that's a good thing, guys and gals. But I mean, well,
absolutely.
I got to tell you something. I really want to talk about your podcast because the word heart, I mean, when I think of your podcast and doing research for your podcast, I couldn't help but enjoy the fact that sometimes food is the backdrop, but really what we're listening to are stories and relationships and experiences, and they all sort of blend so well together. And I want to touch upon that a little bit later, but I want to talk about how your upbringing was like, because your father was a small Greek village, was born, I guess, in a small Greek village in Asia Minor. And because your father's restaurant was located in the county seat, the customers represented the social cross-section. And when you'd go to Greek gatherings and there would be a party or a glendy, which is what they called it, your parents would have you go up to people in order to tell them who you are. And I find it fascinating because as a storyteller, you had to navigate between 2 different worlds.
That's right.
And I mean, you grow up here, at home, your parents speak Greek. It reminds me of a Stanislavski quote. Everyone at every minute of his life must feel something. Only the dead have no sensations. Your upbringing was definitely beneficial for someone who was well on his way to becoming a storyteller because you had to play different roles growing up, right?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. Being one of the only, if not the only, really, Greek kid in my town, there were ethnic families around. There were a number of Italian families. Italians had a history, by the way, of working in the coal mines in West Virginia for a long time. And my family, my dad just got there serendipitously. It was really a twist of fate. He had a friend who had a restaurant in Virginia just across the state line. And he worked for his friend for a couple of years, learning English, saving money. And then when he saw that there was a restaurant for sale in West Virginia, by then he'd learned the restaurant business. His father owned a little coffee shop in the old country. But you know, when he was here, he had to know what it was like to do business in America. And he borrowed a few bucks. He had saved some money and he bought a little place. And then he ended up becoming very prosperous, bringing the whole family over. All of his brothers were in business with him. One of his sisters lived about, 30 miles from us. She married a restaurateur as well. It was the family business.
It's incredible that that dynamic existed in your household, because that resonates with me. It was very similar. Before I embarked upon a career as a storyteller and as a writer, I actually told Richard Donner, who was my mentor later on in years, he said to me, it's interesting that you have this connection to different cultures. And for one, it was growing up in New York City. And of course, the other part is growing up in a household where people speak 2 different languages. So a lot of times you kind of pick up on not only the personality traits and the rhythm and characteristics, but again, it lends itself to being a storyteller. And I think in your case, because your work is so honest and truthful, it's always spoken to me as a result. When you got older and you were going into college, and I'd like to bring up Professor Patrick Ward Gaynor, who taught a folklore class, and of course, Charles Neal, who suggested that you consider majoring in theater. But first, let's get into the nitty gritty. I mean, college, women, politics, popularity, you're spinning wheels, but you took an acting class primarily because it helped your GPA initially. And after one play, you were offered to play the lead Tartuffe. You were offered to play this lead after one play. And it's not as if you didn't have a lot of experience, because, again, we can't sneeze at anyone playing Frosty the Snowman in the 6th grade, but you must have thought that there's no way you could play the lead until you found out that the woman playing opposite you was Miss West Virginia. Did that seal the deal at the time, not only for that particular play, but your life's ambitions?
Absolutely. Well, not necessarily my life's ambition, but certainly for that particular experience. And that's the one that sort of sealed the idea. Sure. Oh yeah, this is something that I have not only a passion for, that I enjoy doing. You got a picture of Patrick Gaynor? My gosh! Oh, you gotta send that to me. He was an extraordinary man. But it set me on the path that I've followed for the rest of my life, and I'm still doing it.
Wow, that's so incredible.
So one moment can change anyone's life. All it takes is, in this case, somebody who believes in you. And
because
in this
there
case,
was
this acting teacher, Chuck Neal.
And there was no indication prior to this that this would be your life's pursuit. No indication of that prior.
Well, to a certain extent, there was, in that I had a great ear for voices, for accents. I was always comfortable telling stories and jokes. I acted out things for my friends, and particularly for, interestingly, my adult friends. I had when I was a teenager, I had a lot of adult friends in my hometown who kind of spoke to what my aspirations were, what my inner aspirations were. I always was interested in music. I played in a rock and roll band when I was in high school.
Sure.
I was interested in modes of expression. I was a huge fan of particular brands of comedy. Sid Caesar was a big. I was a huge fan of your Show of Shows, which was a show that was on in the 50s.
Sure.
But it was anarchic humor. It was out there. It was improvisation. It was craziness. And also, if you think about the writers on that show, I don't know if you're familiar with the Show of Shows, but
absolutely, sure.
For your listeners, here are the people who were the writers on that show: Larry Gelbart, who created MASH.
MASH, yep.
Woody Allen, Mel Brooks, Neil Simon.
I didn't know Neil Simon was.
Oh yeah, Neil Simon was one of the writers in that room.
In
fact, I just finished one of my Cooking by Heart podcasts. I just finished talking to Manny Eisenberg. Manny Eisenberg is a legendary Broadway producer who also produced 20 of Neil Simon's plays on Broadway.
That's absolutely remarkable. That's a Mount Rushmore right there that you just mentioned.
Oh man, let me tell you, comedy certainly. So there was an artist somewhere inside me waiting to get out.
Sure.
And all it took was somebody who had the key, and he turned the key and the lock opened and out it came.
Mr. Neal.
Yep.
Wow, incredible. I know at the time, perhaps maybe your father was appalled at your decision. You left your fraternity, right? I mean, you moved into a boarding house of a grandma of a friend of yours, but your time was dedicated to theater. The last 2 years of college, you played 3 leads. You realize this is where you belong.
Yep.
You didn't hedge your bets by going after something else you were less passionate about. Now your ambition wasn't to be famous. It was to have a career as a storyteller, and there is a difference.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, I think one of the traps that occurs, particularly in the proliferation of social media these days, is that kids think, all right, I'm going to finish doing my high school, my college plays, and then I'm going to go to Los Angeles and I'm going to be a movie star.
Sure.
And I had the good luck of having a theater-centric background from the very, very, very first, from the very first day that I, got involved in it. And so my aspirations were not about being famous. They were about becoming a great actor, becoming an actor who worked for the rest of his life. And luckily, that occurred.
Theater's way of examining dialogue or monologue and character, it allows us to flex our empathy muscles, as I say it, because in other words, understanding theater helps us understand what it's like to be human.
Yes, because you are in direct contact with other humans
at
the time you're doing it.
Yes, 100%. And again,
the audience.
Continuing, it's great to know that you are embarking upon this great career. You got your equity card. You work for a small improvisational company in Washington, D.C., experimental theater, doing Chekhov for kids. And upon getting an agent, you book Guiding Light as Dr. Tom Halverson, which also gave you the freedom to work on other plays as you were on Broadway as Jacob Rothschild and the Rothschilds and Proteus and the Two Gentlemen of Verona. I get goosebumps. And then the rehearsals, the communication with your fellow colleagues, which is, of course, in a linear fashion. The discipline of it all allows us to open up to experiencing different perspectives that maybe we may not be aware of or even contemplate. So in other words, theater does help you not only become human, as I brought up earlier, but it also helps you understand people and really connect with them, because in a positive way, we're forced to connect to get it right.
Yep, exactly. Yeah, very well articulated.
Well, I mean, listen, your body of work speaks for itself, and I love being able to go down this rabbit hole with you, because the craft means a lot to me as well. And I think a lot of people see someone on television or a film and they go, well, okay, they woke up and found an agent that did this. They don't understand how you have to really love what you do and how you have to continuously do what you do despite real life getting in the way, because it gets in the way.
It can, yeah. It depends on your level of dedication as to whether you want to have a balance of real life and your artistic life. I've been lucky that I've been able to have a decent balance all the way through my career.
Sure.
Especially once you have kids.
Right. And even as storytellers, I feel as if maybe we want to entertain and provoke. It's more philosophical. I want to get your take on this, because it dawned on me yesterday when I was getting ready for this conversation we're having. We want to entertain and provoke and reconnect with a simplicity that should never leave the core of what we do, which is curiosity. And it's the why. It's the why and what we do and what we do to treat each other the way we do. And maybe perhaps in your experience, is it the comfort we get from a shared uncertainty? Because I think that's a bond. Does that resonate with you?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. My wife, who's a wonderful teacher, often talks about the difference between having expectations and making plans. And in life, it's difficult to do to live a life in which you have everything set before you in a particular way.
Sure.
And when you're an actor, you can't make specific plans other than what's the next job, and the expectations should essentially be, well, I just want to keep working. I just want to keep doing this. I would just want to keep experiencing, having these pristine and sublime moments with other people, either on a stage or in front of a camera. There's nothing like it.
It reminds me of what occurred when perhaps your daughter and all her classmates were asking about what their dads did for a living. And then she turns to the teacher and says, my daddy looks for work.
Yeah.
That's really the plight that the people don't get.
That's right. There are, and particularly now, we're in the middle of a strike, not only the Writers Guild of America, but of SAG-AFTRA, Screen Actors Guild. and the American Federation of Television and Radio Artists, which is it's the acronym for both unions.
Oh yeah.
And a lot of people don't realize, because they are exposed to people who are in the top, 5%, 1%, whatever, of the union, that there is a vast number, something like 150, 160,000 people who scrape by making a living as atmosphere people. That is, we call them extras, but they're called atmosphere people.
Absolutely.
People who do small parts in shows, who do the everyday kind of stuff that makes all these great movies and these television shows work. And they are vastly underpaid, the majority of them. And even though the union provides health insurance, you have to meet a threshold of income. And many of the actors who are in the union don't meet that threshold and have to, supplement their insurance. I've been through periods of that by myself, where I haven't made enough money in a particular year and have to pay for my own health insurance. It may not sound like a hardship, but it is for a lot of people.
Oh, without question. You're right.
Yeah.
You talked about that percentage. And, even prior to the actual strike, I've been with the Guild for a long time. There's a studio that I work for, and they had a lot of moving parts. A lot of different, Indian, Native American chiefs were moving around and being replaced. And it stinks because some of the writers can't work the way they thought they work. They can't be commissioned to write a screenplay because the predecessor usually wants to make sure that their clique aren't around anymore for that particular reason. Yeah. They want to have their own team established, but that affects people's careers and their livelihoods as well. Political decisions.
Yeah, absolutely. You remind me of a story that William Goldman tells about the fate of The Princess Bride.
Right.
He talked about the movie was originally optioned by Robert Redford.
Yeah.
And Redford owned the property for a long time. I was exposed to it through my ex-wife Susan, who worked with Redford. He gave us the book to read. There wasn't a screenplay at the time, and we both loved it. And I thought, oh, this is wonderful. This is going to make an extraordinary movie. And Redford couldn't get it done. And for years, Goldman ran up against the inevitable change in regime at a studio, where a studio would greenlight the movie. Everything was prepared, the screenplay was done, and then the head of the studio would get fired, and whoever came on board, the greenlight guy was gone. And so was William Goldman's script and his relationship with that studio. And it took Rob Reiner to ultimately resuscitate it and bring it before this amazing cohort of fans who have turned this movie into a cultural phenomenon.
It sounds overly dramatic, but it's like, for me at least as a writer, it's like watching your baby in a catatonic state. It's horrible to see something that you love so much. And I don't want to compare that to human life, but I do want to compare it to the time and energy, because there is human life that goes into these characters. As a matter of fact, I would weep sometimes at certain characters. I've written 3 series, and when you realize, based on the story arc and where it's moving, there is no other alternative but to depart with said characters, it could affect you. But going back to your journey, we're thinking about New York City, and I think of Joseph Chaikin, La Mama Theater. If I could time travel, then it would be to New York City during the experimental theater days. And I brought up Richard Donner, who, for our viewers, they know this, the director of Superman, Goonies, Lethal Weapon, so many more, as my mentor. I wouldn't have worked in the studio system if it weren't for his tutelage. And all these years later, as a screenwriter, host, and teacher of the craft, I do tell my students that the before is just as important to the storyteller as the after. And I was once in a long run of a short Tennessee Williams play set in the 1930s. I made my entrance joyously upbeat, and it was to the bars of the Glenn Miller's Orchestra in the Mood. And that was my before that bled into the after. So in terms of gaining the ability to find the strongest choices, how liberating is it to take a thought and manifest it into an artistic expression?
Would you repeat that question?
Sure. In terms of gaining the ability to find the strongest choices, how liberating do you feel it is to take a thought and manifest it into an artistic expression?
Well, it depends on the actor's process. And my process is a very eclectic one. I never took I was never a student of acting in the sense that I was constantly going to acting class all the time.
Sure.
My laboratory was always watching other actors, particularly actors who were better than me. And I had that opportunity early in my career where I was working in a theater in Maryland 1 year between my first and my second graduate student year. And I had been on a tour, a classical tour that the school does, Catholic University does. And I got to work with this protean Canadian actor named John Colicos, who in Canada was revered for his King Lear and his Prospero and his Hamlet. And he was playing Sir Thomas More in The Man for All Seasons. And I was in the production. I played one of the characters in the production.
Sure.
And I got to watch him work. I got to watch his preparation. I got to watch the way he handled himself when he worked with other actors. Actors like George Grizzard, Olympia Dukakis. I did a play with Olympia when I was 21 years old, and Olympia was playing Serafina in a place called The Rose Tattoo, a Tennessee Williams play. And I was the young sailor who was in love with her daughter. And I got to watch Olympia work in that sort of totally both kind of simultaneously on two tracks, working intellectually and intuitively at the same time. That is, making decisions that are consistent with the director's vision and Tennessee Williams' vision, and also the actor's knowledge of how their tools fit into that vision, and also moment to moment on stage being totally there all the time,
all present. Yeah. It's interesting what happens. And I told a student this, if you reach for the toolbox and grab the wrong tool, sometimes that can lead to a great discovery. And of course, in rehearsals is when you want to figure out and experiment during rehearsals.
And that's when you open the toolbox and you throw out all the tools onto the floor, or you just throw them away and you figure out how to do that particular role.
And if you don't make discoveries, it's because I feel like part of the journey of a storyteller is to be able to explore and again, work with people who are like-minded enough to be able to do that. You can't play unless you prep. You can't play unless you prep. And that's why with rehearsals in the medium of film that people talk about, they assume that there's all this rehearsal time. And I'm glad you brought up, you brought up Princess Bride, but I'm also going to bring up another film, guys and gals, with Tom Holland. Rehearsals are so essential. I'll bring it up a bit later because when you have the opportunity to rehearse, oh gosh. But then when I think about a breakthrough role that allows you at least to say, this is now officially not only my career, but this is something that allows me now to grow into my craft, still support my family, support myself, and perhaps through visibility, get other work that speaks to me. We're talking Dog Day Afternoon. We're not just talking about a film that made it big. We're talking about quality. We're talking about substance. You garnered an Oscar nomination for your portrayal of Leon, and it was a perfect storm of positive proportions because it had an amazing script. Frank Pearson, he won an Academy Award for it. A wonderful cast, and Al Pacino, Charles Durning. Oh God, I mean John Cazale, and what a director, Sidney. He would rehearse his movies like plays. You guys rehearsed in a rehearsal hall for 3 weeks where everything was planned ahead of time, and he still would be able to come in under budget, which I've seen firsthand can make any producer, any exec quite happy. But you didn't sit around waiting for scenes to be worked out, which is what does happen now. Athletes want to win one for each other. Actors can play and improvise, which is different than ad-libbing, only if they're prepared. You can't play without the prep. Do you enjoy working for directors who give you the freedom to explore? Because it's tough to, again, make discoveries when you're not exploring.
There's nothing like it. It doesn't happen much in television because there's not enough time. But generally speaking, it makes financial sense.
Sure.
That, Sidney Lumet always rehearsed his movies prior to the actual shoot. He always came in under budget and under time. Amazing. He always beat the budget and he always beat the schedule. And that's the money you saved is proportionately way more than the money you spent in rehearsal, and that you had to pay the actors for those 3 weeks. And generally speaking, actors will say,
Sure.
I will always say, you don't have to pay me whatever my rate is for the movie, for the rehearsal period. Just pay me the minimum to give us the opportunity to explore and figure this out, so that on the day when we go in front of the cameras, we're not going, oh God, what the fuck do we do now?
Oh gosh, it's great to be able to even ask the director something simple and hope we have a lot of actors who listen to this. And guys and gals, again, we appreciate all of your attendance, because thanks to you, 7-figure views across the board on 51 pages. Go to www. Guys, thenewNetwork.com. Entertainers from film, theater, sports, comedy. We're going to take a break from this career retrospective momentarily and talk about Chris's podcast. We're going to do that a few times during this conversation.
Cool.
The first question I have for you is, was it something that occurred gradually, or was it a eureka moment? Hey, I want to do this.
It came from, I have my brother-in-law is we're very close. I have no immediate members of my family still alive. And my brother-in-law is like a brother to me. And one day we were talking during the pandemic, and he's a big podcast fan. He's been listening to it for years and nudging me, listen to this, listen to that. This one's wonderful. Watch, And he said, what are you doing? And I said, well, I'm languishing, essentially, sitting around waiting for the other shoe to drop and we can go back to work.
Sure.
And he said, why don't you do a podcast? I said, you got to be kidding. What the hell am I going to do a podcast about? And he said, come on. He said, you're Greek. Your father owned a restaurant. You worked in the restaurant from the time you were 10 years old. And you cook for us every time we see you. Why don't you do a podcast about food?
Sure.
So I said, all right, I'll give it some thought, because it gives me some sort of creative outlet if I decide to do it. And I started listening to podcasts, food podcasts, and none of them really, I liked them. I thought they were great, but I couldn't figure out what my entry was into this particular genre.
Sure.
And then I realized it's sitting right in front of you, for God's sake. A lot of your most vivid memories about food are from when you were between 10 and 18 years old, when you were working in your dad's restaurant. Talk to people about that part of their lives, when they grew up, what it was like around the dinner table, what did their mom cook, what was the food that, and because inevitably, as you mentioned earlier, not only will you talk about the food, but you talk about the people, you talk about the stories, and the stories that come out are just extraordinary. I mean, they really are amazing. They continue to surprise me because guests tend to be, when you go back, memory, particularly childhood memory, what's stronger than childhood memory? And when people start talking about their childhood, and particularly what it was like around the hearth, and that's a figurative expression, but that's essentially what it has meant through human history, and that is that we have sat around as a family, and we have communed while we've eaten. So I have been very fortunate to be able to attract a number of extraordinary guests.
Sure.
From my first guest, who was a wonderful woman named Adriana Trishani, who still counsels me. She's a novelist, a wonderful writer, but also a great storyteller. And she comes from my background. She comes from an ethnic background, and having grown up in an Appalachian town. So she and I, and she's an amazing storyteller and raconteur, and the stories that came out about her family and her around food, were just amazing. And then Michael Patrick King, the one of the creators and producer, showrunner of Sex and the City and the new show that's on HBO Max, his stories. And interestingly, often the stories are not about great food. Michael Patrick King talked about the fact that one of the vivid memories he had was, as his mother was serving the mashed potatoes, she's weeping and her tears are dripping into the mashed potatoes. She was a lousy cook. I talked to a lot of people whose mothers were frustrated at being homemakers. And so the food in the home reflected that. So there's a lot about the dynamic in the family, difficult familial relationships, stories of divorce, of eating with the father, eating with the mother. I mean, it's extraordinary what really comes out when you start talking about when you were growing up and what was going on in your house when you were 5, 6, 7, 10, 12, 15 years old.
It's funny because internally, when you start retracing your steps and ask yourself what makes me feel comfortable, food is at the top of that list, because sometimes so long as you have food in your mouth, you solved all the questions for the time being, at least.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Yeah, you're able to continue to survive.
Yes.
And there's a metaphor there too for what happens with actors, because we go through periods, as you quoted my daughter saying, when they asked my daughter what your dad does, she said he looks for work.
Right.
That was her experience of me all the time. And so to me, the podcast has been an extraordinary revelation about a number of things, including the beauty of the human spirit and how we survive. I've talked to a number of people who had very difficult childhoods, and they talk about it very frankly.
Sure.
And also, interestingly too, I've had two particular guests, Jacques Pepin, the great French chef, and Lydia Bastianich, the great Italian chef. I did live shows with them, and both of them come from very similar backgrounds where they were at wartime with Jacques. He grew up in wartime France with literally nothing. His father was in the resistance. His mother had to forage for food. His mother created a number of restaurants along the way. He had started apprenticing as a chef when he was 13.
Wow.
In some of the great restaurants in France. Lydia Bastianich was a refugee for 2 years. She lived in a refugee camp for 2 years. And to hear these people who are now, for all intents and purposes, famous, and wealthy, but who have also given back a lot. Jacques has a foundation, so does Lydia. They particularly work a lot with diversity and letting disadvantaged people have opportunities in the culinary field. They've become extraordinary people with no bitterness, and also great stories about when they were growing up.
So remarkable to know that their passion could speak for themselves even through those trials and tribulations. Because again, in life, what are the things that are necessary? There are a few things that are necessary. Eating is one of them, and it's great to have an excuse to catch up with somebody because they have to eat. You have to eat. Now that we found common ground, let's have an excuse to talk and converse.
What do we do? What do we do when we want to get together with friends?
Right.
we meet at a restaurant or we go over to somebody's house.
Yes.
And we experience that when we're kids too.
Yes. Or in my case, talk about how the New York Knicks have scarred me. A little bit later on that.
Oh, well. I'm a fellow Knicks fan, and yes, the scars are deep, but they're healing. They're healing.
They're healing. Guys and gals, I don't need any healing when I think about something that automatically already makes me feel well, and that's The Princess Bride, because it's a film that reveals itself over time. And when I think of William Goldman, of course, you brought this up earlier, an amazing book. But to set it up for our viewers, the 70s, Robert Redford provides your ex-wife a copy of the book. You read it as well. And as you mentioned, Redford had an option to make the film, but a decade goes by, and here you are reading this, of course, back in the 70s. But that's not what was on your mind, because, I want to project now and vent simultaneously.
Yeah, sure.
We're talking about the 80s. We're talking about reading The Princess Bride. We're talking about walking into a room, of course. Rob Reiner's in that room. But
William Goldman as well.
And Goldman, that wasn't quite on your mind, though, because the banes of my existence, the false hopes that they gave me throughout the years, those dreaded Knicks drafted a player that wasn't to your liking, really ticked you off. But as a basketball aficionado, I'm thinking this was 86. Could it have been Kenny Walker? That's all.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Oh,
Skywalker. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm on a bus going up Central Park West to get to William Goldman's apartment, and I have the New York Daily News in my hand, and the headline on the back sports page is Knicks draft Skywalker, and the steam is coming out of my ears.
Oh my gosh, my dad felt the same way. I, of course, was watching the Knicks religiously back then as well. And Kenny Walker, I mean, and you think about, I want to get delved too deeper into the Knicks over here, but you're thinking about a time where they're building around Patrick Ewing, they just got, Bernard King was now in Washington. They don't have such a deep nucleus. They're trying to find their way. And the 86 draft, the only thing that makes me feel better about knowing they draft Kenny Walker was, and I don't say this lightly because it's very tragic, is that first round was filled with a lot of tragedy.
I don't remember it. Yeah, I don't remember.
Len Bias and the cocaine overdose.
Oh, yeah, of course. Lenny Bias, one of the great players in college basketball history.
One of the best. William Bedford, drug overdose as well, was drafted by the Pistons, or the Suns, I should say. And there were a lot of players, I guess, that didn't live up to the hype. The second round produced great guys like Mark Price and Dennis Rodman. All these great players came out of 86. But, you're back to The Princess Bride. It's amazing that it all came back full circle for you because, again, you read it as early as almost anyone did. And what an incredible job you did. The casting. The casting was so incredible. Thanks to Rob Reiner.
Perfect. Yeah.
Right. He's got a great eye. I mean, you were quoted as saying Elia Kazan, who had said that the great part of his job was when he cast the movie. But initially, you really connected with the Inigo Montoya character. Is that right?
Yeah, initially when I read it.
Yeah.
Of course. Why wouldn't you? Swashbuckling swordsman who has a lot of wonderful things to say. He's got a lot of great that immortal line of Inigo's, my name is Inigo Montoya, you killed my father, prepare to die. We'll live forever.
Yes. 100%.
Yeah. But I have to say that given the way things turned out, I'm thrilled at having played Prince Humperdinck, and also that I think all the way through the casting of this movie, it was perfect, including, of course, Mandy Patinkin playing Inigo. Yeah.
100%. Great casting across the board. It's timeless. It speaks to people. And when those ask, hey, it's an interesting name or a title, it's great to tell the story of how William Goldman had two daughters. And he told them he'd write something for them. One said, write something about a princess. The other one said, write something about a bride. And it's incredible how even the Fred Savage character essentially is him. It's William. And along with Butch Cassidy, of course, The Princess Bride was the most fulfilling work he ever did. He was so involved in his own fiction that it moved him moment to moment. How sacred is it to treasure someone's work that's clearly so much a part of him?
Well, I think we all, the entire cast, we all feel like we are, first of all, we all feel very fortunate that we were part of the making of the movie.
Sure.
Which was a joyous experience on the day, literally. I mean, every day was a discovery. Every day was laughing, lots of laughing. There were friendships that were established that remain to this day. Carrie Elwes is one of my closest friends.
Sure.
And I wouldn't have thought that when we were actually shooting the movie, because Carrie and I didn't work a lot together. But we have, over the years, just stayed in touch and become very close friends. And also the message of the movie itself, which is about there are multiple messages in the movie, because while I think a lot of people are left with the final one, which is true love surmounts all,
right?
The most beautiful kiss in the history of the world, et cetera, that there are also, there's that balance between romanticism and cynicism.
Oh, yeah.
That Goldman was able to always, and he did this in a lot of his work
seamlessly.
Yeah, and Butch Cassidy,
That's true.
He did it in any number of the films that he wrote, and the books that he wrote as well. That very, very delicate line where you don't cross over into one or the other wholeheartedly. You let the audience know that these both exist simultaneously in life.
Right. He did that in All the President's Men as well.
Yeah. And by the way, there's a line in the movie. I think it's Wesley who says it, where I'm not sure if it's Buttercup who says that it isn't fair, and he says, "Life isn't fair. Anybody who tells you otherwise is selling something." Now that's as ultimately a cynical line
yes, it is.
as exists
in the world of fairy tale.
Yeah,
I
life
love
isn't
that.
fair. Anybody who tells you otherwise is selling something.
I love that.
So
And
not
again,
only is
right.
life not fair, but you're getting taken if you believe it.
And I love the honesty because it exists in the world of a fairy
Yeah.
tale where someone is saying this.
Yeah, and it happens in the middle of the movie. Wesley's dying. He's
yes,
he's almost he's mostly dead.
Mostly dead.
Yeah. And yet, love conquers all.
Oh,
So,
that's beautiful. And it still resonates with people. And it's great to know the cast, of course, still keeps in touch.
Yeah, and you can tell from the writing that he was emotionally invested in it.
Of course.
Yeah.
Yes, there's no doubt. And to me that's artistic ambition, but it's also art as well. And art comes in many forms. And that's why I'm going to bring up Fright Night, because it has such a great reverence for the genre.
Oh, yeah.
You played at this point, prior to that, you just played Sidney Carton in Tale of Two Cities. So Fright Night,
Sidney Carton and Charles Darnay, both. Both.
Wow.
Yeah.
Just right before Fright Night. Yeah.
The whole idea behind the Tale of Two Cities is that they're lookalikes.
Yes.
These guys are double. One is the doppelganger of the other, as it were.
And it's great because you're playing these dual roles, and you're coming off of this amazing character portrayals, plural, and then you read the Fright Night script. They fly you out to California. You're sitting with Tom Holland, Herb Jaffe, the producer, and after all the pleasantries are exchanged, you ask Tom what his POV of the movie is and how he plans to shoot it. And then he proceeds to go through the shot list with you.
He goes through the entire movie.
The whole thing. And you enjoyed the experience much in large part. Was it all of the above? The camaraderie, the character bios, the collaboration of it all? Did that make the experience so pleasing for you? Rewarding?
Well, in the making of the movie, the process was great fun because Tom was an actor and he believed strongly in even if he was creating a world that was, for one of a better way, a genre, sort of not totally naturalistic world, that he needed to have the characters grounded in naturalism.
Sure.
In order to make it believable. And so we spent time, as Sidney Lumet did, with lots of rehearsal time, creating background stories for our characters, rehearsing, talking through the scenes again, so that and with this film, because there were a lot of practical special effects, not computer generated, but practical special effects, particularly makeup special effects, contact lenses, stuff like that took time. You needed to have that sort of grounding ahead of time so that you weren't thrown by it once you were on set and under 8 hours of makeup.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. I can imagine.
So it was first of all, when Tom went through the movie, I knew that he knew he had a vision. And also I thought the script was written very cleverly and that this is very important. And I think the same is true with The Princess Bride, that when you are working in a genre that you have great affection for the genre, that you don't make fun of it. You have fun with it, but you don't make fun of it. You don't turn to the audience figuratively, not literally, but you don't turn to the audience and say, we know this isn't really real. We're having a good time here and we want you to laugh with us. The stakes are always very high.
Yes.
Even when things are funny. Princess Bride, same thing. When I read for Rob Reiner and Bill Goldman, they had me read the scene where he tells Buttercup, I hope you'll consider me as an alternative to suicide. Now, that's a very funny moment.
It is.
And when I finished, Rob roared with laughter. And I was startled because I thought, this isn't funny. He's very serious here. He's trying to convince this
You're
woman.
not playing for laughs. You're not.
And you're playing the stakes. You're playing whatever the character. Yeah.
And you're keeping them honest. And I love how moment to moment your objectives can change as well.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's through the nonverbal. Sometimes it's through subtext. And I think isn't that one of the greatest joys as a storyteller, is to rip open a script. And if you're connecting with it, there's the subtext you're searching for, because that is also an obligation and responsibility of the actor, is to look and search for subtext. Move around when you're working with a monologue, not be stationary, be mobile. I love that all of this is part of what makes the foundation of a good actor, a great actor.
Behavior.
Yeah.
You know, when we're interacting with other human beings, almost always we are behaving in some human way. That is, we're either doing something. I mean, I know, you know, when my wife and I are, even when we're in the rare moments when we have a disagreement, and we do, because
Sure.
you know, we've been married for a long time.
Sure.
We're usually involved in something else, and we stop it or we start it, or, you know, that's the way human beings behave.
Well, you know, creativity requires the ability to take a thought and manifest it as an actor into an artistic expression, but it's like being in love and maybe taking that energy, writing a poem or a song, and then seeing the choices of a script and committing to one of them. That's no different, because part of making great choices is being able to switch interpretations on a dime, regardless of whether or not you personally like the choice. You have to commit. You have to commit to it. Once you make that choice, you got to commit, especially on stage.
Oh yeah,
of course. There's no other alternative. So, what a great conversation about Fright Night. But I also think it's brilliant of you, my friend, that by searching, you made a discovery as it pertains to bats. They're mostly fruit bats, so you incorporated that into your character as well when he's eating the fruit the whole time.
Yeah. I was, and also it's a testament to Tom Holland, who, when I went to him with this, he went, "I love it. And not only do I love it, but I'm going to figure out ways to incorporate it all the way through the script." Yeah,
it's just incredible.
Yeah,
the choices you make, and again, watching your body of work. Those that know me know I'm very direct yet rather respectful. I don't say things or mince words. I think your body work has always been honest and truthful because of the time that you put into it and the love and respect you put into each body of work that represents your fine career.
Thank you.
And that career continued on, and really voiceover work now, where people are talking about the voiceover work that speaks to them literally and figuratively. The first thing they'll bring up, of course, is Nightmare Before Christmas, because you provided the voice of Jack Skellington, and you had seen the sets they were working on in this excruciatingly slow process of stop motion animation. So you had the sense that the work you were going to do had to be heightened in a way. The vividness of the visuals had to be matched by the vividness of the voice. There's no way you could play it in a low-key, naturalistic way, right?
Right, absolutely. And even now, I go back in. I've literally over the last 2 months, I've gone back into the studio twice to do some work for Disney. That is, one is a stage show that they're doing in Hollywood at a theater there that has a Nightmare Before Christmas theme. And the other was a video game, a new video game. And every time I go in for Jack, I have to keep that in mind, and also keep in mind that Jack existed somewhere in my psyche.
Yes.
But also I have to translate that into my a very specific place in my voice, which essentially was a much more higher pitched, anxiety ridden kind of a guy, because he is a very anxious character pretty much all the way through the movie, until finally he figures out that there's no place like home.
Did you feel like, because your diaphragm is sort of the elastic, the parachute-shaped sheath of muscles that powers your breathing, was that a different experience altogether?
Oh yeah, it's very different. First of all, you're doing things very repetitively, over and over and over again, and giving the animators choices.
Yes.
Of how they're going to frame, how they're going to put this scene together in the way they hear it in their head and see it. Now, I don't see it. I have an idea. I have a template for the character in terms of the storyboards that they had done, and also some of the animation that they'd already done when I started. They had done a lot of Daddy Elfman's music and singing prior to the time that I came on. So I had that.
Yes.
But only the director, Henry Selick, and Tim Burton knew what the overall arc of the character was.
That's
and you have to be very much more in the service of the creative people, and you can obviously you inject your own personality into it.
No doubt.
Yeah, you got it. Otherwise, it becomes just words.
I love it when my first project after Dot Life, which became a project that was, of course, sold and distributed, it's great to allow characters, when you have the opportunity to do so due to time constraints, that's not always an option, but to allow them to work on their own character bios or provide them character bios. And all of a sudden, I would love to even give featured players their own bios, because they're walking on set and there's a purpose. There's a purpose there. Yeah. And it builds morale, and it does so many things that we probably don't have time to discuss, because it'd be a litany of different things that it provides. But it's so rewarding and refreshing to know that the person that hired you for said job cares enough about your character to say, look, this is your backstory.
Yep. And very good directors, or assistant directors in this case, because it's usually the assistant director who works on film with background people, will work with background people very specifically, and say, okay, this is how you can give this scene energy by creating for yourself something that in what we're looking for in the general kind of, atmosphere population, will give us that sense that you are really a human being existing in this world and not just somebody walking through.
I don't want to use the word wrap up. That sounds so cliche, but as we finish things up, I'd like to play a quick game. But before we play a quick game, as we play with all our guests, I do want to be able to bring up this again, because your podcast not only speaks to me, but I wanted to speak to all the masses. Where can people find this podcast, Chris?
The easiest place to find Cooking by Heart with Chris Sarandon is at chrissarandon.com. Just go to chrissarandon.com, and then there's a choice on the website for podcast. And then you'll go there, and the entire lineup is there. All the shows from season 1, and the links, as well as the links to not only the audio, but to YouTube, where we also broadcast them all. So they're all on, they're all on Apple, Spotify, iHeart, all the podcast platforms. You can click the link for the audio, or you can click the YouTube for a particular episode and watch it.
Cooking by Heart, guys, is the name of this podcast, and I got to tell you, that's exactly what it's a great title. It really, to me, epitomizes what the podcast is all about.
Yeah, and by the way, if I can interrupt just one second,
yes,
Avi,
please.
Season 2 will be starting in September, probably mid-September. I think sometime around the 12th. I'm not sure. I have the calendar behind me, but at any rate, and my first guest is Susan Sarandon.
Oh wow,
my ex-wife. Yeah, and it's a wonderful podcast. She speaks with such frankness and such feeling. It's really extraordinary.
One of my weaknesses, I don't like having assistants, so I'm doing this here live, guys and gals. But look, right here, we're going to keep this on here the entire time. Please go to chrissarandon.com to find his amazing podcast. Cooking by Heart Season 2 is just around the corner. I really am excited of it because, again, I'm the guy that always says, I don't do interviews. I love conversations. Well, guys want good conversations. You have to watch this podcast.
There really are conversations. Yep.
They're incredible conversations with people from all walks of life, and they share their passion organically, and that's really beautiful to me. Chris, I would love to play a game called I Would Pay, if that's okay with you.
Okay. What explain the game.
The premise, sure. So guys and gals, I will provide Chris a trio of options. These are all wacky options, of course. So they're not going to be taken seriously. We're going to have a lot of fun. But of these options, please pick one that you would pay for and why, and explain why you would, if that's okay.
Okay. Something I'd pay for.
Guys and gals. Something you pay for of the following. These are all wacky options, guys and gals. Chris Sarandon, my friend, please let me know what you pay for the following and why. Watching Hannibal Lecter as a regular cast member of 90210, Big Bird the Bounty Hunter, or Conan the Librarian?
Conan the Librarian. I'd like to, being a sometime admirer of Arnold Schwarzenegger and his choices in life, I'd love to see the episode of that show.
Conan the Librarian is something
I'd pay, definitely.
Guys and gals, if you ever deliver a book late, you got to see this guy. That would not be something that you would be fond of. You probably would keep your books and decide to never go to the library again, which is a sad statement because no one goes to libraries anymore. Somebody asked me, they said, hey, what's more rare, do you think? Seeing people in a public library or seeing people actually reading in a park? They go hand in hand because students, I used to teach history, would also tell me that they're talking to their friends on the phone, but I wouldn't see them talking, Chris. They're texting. They're now texting people saying they're talking to them.
Yep, that's right. Yeah,
it's
they're not actually interacting with a person.
No, guys and gals, another trio of options for Mr. Chris Sarandon. He'll let us know what she'd pay for and why of the following: Darth Vader, the wedding planner, Godzilla, the massage therapist, or Freddy Krueger, the personal trainer.
Godzilla. Oh,
massage therapist?
Well, because I can just feel those claws working their way into my back.
Oh God, he'd be an underrated massage therapist.
Very,
for sure,
very, very, yes.
Yeah, and a lot of people would think that maybe he's coming on to them. It's that breath. It's that breath that he has.
Yeah. and by the way, you get a haircut at the same time because of the
Two
flame.
for one. Two for one.
And people used to do that. They used to burn the ends of your hair.
What and they did,
yeah.
Guys and gals, a couple more of these and we're out of here.
Okay.
Trio of options for Mr. Chris Sarandon to let us know
Sure.
which he thinks he would pay for and why. We have Alf, attorney at law, Papa Smurf, the hip hop artist, or Mr. Bean, the motivational speaker.
Mr. Bean, the motivational speaker. He's I'd watch him any day of the week, anytime.
One of my great friends and co-hosts is Dakin Matthews, who worked with Rowan Atkinson. He said working with him was sheer genius because he was so meticulous about every little thing, and he had some clout, so he did what every actor would love to do with a director. He said, give me 4 takes, give me yours, give me mine, and let me improvise. Great for the post-production team.
Yeah, exactly.
Couple more. Which would you pay for to see and why of the following? Beetlejuice as a runway model, cast of Goodfellas as studio and audience members on Jerry Springer, or Jason Voorhees from Friday the 13th as a professional ice skater?
I think not Goodfellas because they're already Jerry Springer characters. So there's no juxtaposition there. And what was the first one again?
We have Beetlejuice, the runway model.
Beetlejuice, the runway model, definitely. Because Beetlejuice would not be out of place.
No, he wouldn't be out of place.
These days, in fashion.
What about the following here? Trio of options for Chris Sarandon, who we would pay for, who we'd pay to see doing the following and why. Archie Bunker, the mountain climber, Ralph Cramden, the yoga instructor, or Don Corleone, the computer repair person?
Don Corleone, the computer repair person. Oh, yeah. I mean, who wouldn't want to stand with the computer repair person and have him make you an offer you can't refuse? Do I replace the tube or do I give you a whole new set?
Either way, guys, you got to proceed with caution on that one. But I do want to, again, thank the studio that I've worked with for 18 years. You guys and gals, thank you again for appreciating me for doing this entire network and supporting it as well. Distribution, that's what we're seeking. And thank you guys for the 7-figure views. But before we depart, 1 or 2 philosophical questions. Chris, do you think someone can be happy when faced with suffering?
I think there are people who are happy when faced with suffering. There's a particular kind of trying to think of the proper way of describing it so that I'm not being pejorative. People who tend to go into very self-denying religious people, people who go into monasteries, people who go into I think, I hope you're editing this, by the way.
Please, sure.
All the pauses. I think
I love your honesty. I love your honesty.
I think that there are people who are truly concerned with the suffering in the world, but feel that they have to suffer as well because they feel guilty about the suffering in the world.
That's beautiful, my friend.
It doesn't negate their work with those who are suffering, but I'm not sure that, for instance, I'm a great admirer of organizations like Doctors Without Borders. And to me, those are people who don't have to do the suffering in order to understand it. They're just there because they want to do good.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that. We need more of that. Do you think that morality is relative, or do you think it's absolute?
Well, you should be my college philosophy teacher. That is a question that we've been asking ourselves for centuries, and I think that certainly when you deal with realpolitik, when you're dealing with the real world, that morality, the line between what is moral and what is not moves. Hopefully, it doesn't move too much. Hopefully, we still have a sense of the appreciation for human life, and the fact that there are certain things that are just taboo, which include bombing innocent civilians in war, hurting children, child pornography, sex trafficking. You know, those are things that I think in which there is a moral absolute. Absolutely.
Sure. Thank you for being you, because you're honest and truthful and hospitable and a real class act. You're class personified. Guys and gals, I want to give Chris, in about a minute, a solo layout to end any way he'd like and give you guys a message if he'd like. Chris, did you have a good time? You've done a lot of interviews. Is this kind of up there for you?
Yeah. I had a great time today, Avi. I mean, because you are engaged in what is a conversation and not a performance.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that. And guys and gals, this is Chris Sarandon, a man who loves motion pictures, as they were called. And again, a man.
It's a phrase that I'm sorry that's gone by the wayside, because when you listen to people who created some of the greatest films in the history of American cinema, they talked about making pictures.
That's right.
Which essentially is what movies are. They're a succession of photographs that have, that are run through a projector and are recorded now with sound, but essentially they are moving pictures. Yeah.
Hopefully that's something that doesn't belong to a bygone era exclusively, guys and gals. Chris
I mean,
Sarandon again. Please, please.
No, because we tend to talk about a film by and working on a film, and all that's good. I love the old way of talking. There are certain things. I worked in eras where I worked with a lot of the great cinematographers of Hollywood history. I worked with John Alonzo. I worked with William Fraker.
Wow.
I worked with Bill.
William Fraker, legend.
Yeah, Bill Straker. I spent a day one day on a set with. I did a movie with Goldie Hawn called Protocol. And they were shooting my close-up, and they lit it. They spent 2.5 hours lighting it.
Wow. 2.5 hours to light it. Yes.
Just to light my close-up.
Just to light it.
Just to light my close-up.
That's absolute professionalism. Absolutely. How could you not want to give your best when it comes to the people you work with that are that professional? Chris, I got to say this. This has been an amazing conversation again. The floor will be yours sole in a moment. And guys, if this does help you, I know that it sounds sappy, but I'd rather be sappy than cynical. That's me. Have faith in the world that doesn't see who you are. And have faith in what the world doesn't see for you yet. Because if you learn more about yourself, you can express truth that way. The lens may be grainy at first, but there's no sweet without the sweat. That means you've got to be able to work. Roll up your sleeves, do what you love, and remember, the sweat is the sweet, ultimately, if you are doing what you love. Chris, thank you so much. Again, to all the great co-hosts on TKN, the Luminaries Award winners. They're not here on this network, guys and gals, simply because they have a plaque on a wall or a name on a walk of fame. They're here because they have stories to tell, and they're sharing that with us. Success is something that's achieved through hard work. That's why I love doing what I do. That's why I loved this conversation with this gentleman of all gentlemen. Thank you, Chris. The floor is yours solo with closing this thing out any way you'd like, my friend.
Well, I can't put it any more succinctly than you just did, Avi. Do what you love. And I would add also, be in service to something. And that's hopefully what we do in the entertainment world. And that is, it's not just about us. It's about the enjoyment that it brings to the people who watch and who somehow can identify with the problems and the situations that are portrayed on the screen or on the stage. And it gives them a moment of, I don't know, relaxation, humor, or just the sense of, well, somebody else is going through the same thing I'm going through. But I'll basically sum it up by, whatever you do, be in service to something or someone. Thanks, Avi.
Holy expletive. Oh my God. Man.
Chris Sarandon.
Oh, man. Holy wow. I mean,
he didn't want to leave. Did you hear him? He wanted to keep going, and I wanted him to keep going.
I mean, it was a conversation. it was a beautiful back and forth, and I'm not surprised. That is what Avi Klein does to, a T. He's made it into an art form. Holy cow.
I really loved how he talked about the process of each film he worked on. And even when he was doing the voices for the video games for Jack, and how each of those pieces of media, what it was like working with the different directors, how they chose to work. Cindy Lumet with freaking rehearsals. That's a dream on any film.
No, I'm like, what are the factors that had to happen in order to have that luxury? But then again, Cindy Lumet, that says it all. That film got, I put it in the comment section, Dog Day Afternoon. That era, that performance, the whole thing. That's the blueprint inside my heart, that movie. So when Avi and him were talking about it, I was like, ooh. I was like a kid at a candy store. I was like, yes, more. So one of my highlights watching that. But what else did you get from?
Oh my gosh. I did all the way back to how he found the stage and how that grounded him for the film work, and his influences, his teachers, what he learned by watching others, how he learned by watching others. Woo! That was incredible.
Oh, yeah.
What else is incredible, and you can see that in our little ticker right now, is that coming up, we have our second topic with our trio of Hall of Famers. We saw them last week. We have them again this week. So don't go anywhere, because coming up next, we have been waiting for it. The final topic for NBA Hall of Famer Calvin Murphy. Did you hear him last week? NHL Hall of Famer Grant Fuhr. And WWE Hall of Famer DVon Dudley.
Oh yeah.
One will be eliminated. So which of these two greats will advance to round number 3, and who will be eliminated? Your live votes determine the outcome.
Oh yeah. They were just talking about stakes, so the stakes in that matchup, guys, are high. So definitely stay tuned to watch the conclusion of that amazing match. But speaking, hey, here's a question. We just saw an amazing interview, Chris Sarandon and Avi.
Mm-hmm.
Is Chris going to be a competitor?
If he is, I think we have another top contender.
What? Yeah, we do. Yes, we do. His experience. Again, another kid at a candy store moment was when he was talking about Princess Bride. Oh my God.
Always. And he originally went in and related it to Inigo Montoya, and then he played Humperdinck.
Yeah.
Everyone loves to hate Humperdinck. Humperdinck's just trying to rule his kingdom.
Yeah.
It's always fun to play villains, because villains, of course, don't see themselves as villains.
Yes.
Villains think they're doing the right thing, whatever their view is, however skewed. We see it based on our own morality and societal norms and sense of being and community, but they never do.
No.
So here's this guy, this prince, this noble, who's just trying to rule his kingdom and do the best he can. And he knows he's going to need a queen. And oh gosh.
Yeah.
Or that's rather, like the title says, but yeah. And how he came in and talked about playing the serious moment straight.
Yes. That's what I love.
Or the funny moment straight. And playing those seriously, because that's where the comedy comes from.
Yes.
Yes. TKN delivers each and every night with conversations like these weekly. They are awesome.
I'll read that. Giselle's reaction alone made my night. First and foremost,
thank you, Antonio.
Antonio Hernandez, welcome. I'm glad you came tonight. This is what we do every Saturday night, my friends. And let me also remind you guys, Chris Sarandon doesn't do much media. So the fact that he's on here, it's a testament to Avi Klein, his art of amazing conversation. It's again, so applauds to Avi and what he's able to do, every Saturday night,
Right? He even said it himself. He was reluctant during the pandemic, during lockdown. He was trying, he was just kind of waiting around. His brother-in-law kind of called him and asked what he was up to. And he said, oh, figuring this all out, trying to see what's happened, what hasn't happened. And he had to be talked into doing his own podcast.
I mean, that speaks volumes to his character. He's not just going to jump on some kind of trend or something. He's going to really try and find his own identity in something. I think it speaks a lot to who he is as an individual. I could. So now it's going to be really cool to be able to kind of watch some of those shows. And then he said second season, Susan Sarandon is going to be. I can only imagine what that conversation is going to be like. Man. Oh yeah,
it's really beautiful that they can come back together after all these years, and what's past is past, and be able to work together, because a lot of people can't do that. So he doesn't do much media, and yet he still has so much going on, and there's so much we can learn and glean from him in this conversation, which he himself said, this is a conversation.
Yeah, exactly.
Not an interview. This is a conversation. This is what we have every week. This is why the entire tournament was started in the first place, to have these conversations, and they're recognizing it. He's saying it. So many of the other competitors have said it week after week. Howard, who else do you remember who's said that they love having these conversations?
I mean, Tim Hardaway Sr., even just being here and the experience he's always had, even he was a competitor, but just how much, Avi shakes up the structure of things. We had Sleepy on, Floyd. He was, he said it himself. I mean, he shared amazing thing. He shared that personal anecdote about his father because Avi created this amazing environment, right? I mean, anyone could look. I don't want to say everyone, but it's very easy to just write down questions on a index card and be like, okay, 1942, blah, blah, blah. But that's not what happens here. What happens here is this beautiful kind of, I call it a ballet of the souls, right? Beautiful exchange where it's the heart speaking to another heart, and it's organic, and it's dancing, and I'm Dominican, so I respond to dancing. So, there's a flow. There's a beautiful ebb and flow. And, Jeremy London has said that so many times, that the celeb should be grateful for this because, I'm sure they've gone to other shows, and it's like the same run of the mill questions. I mean, Trutch, when Trutch was here, he was like, he could have done this for hours because it was so different for him.
Yeah.
So this is what we see every Saturday night, guys.
Mandy Rose too said the same thing, how different it was, how unique. Oh my gosh, yes. Antonio, I'm glad I pulled away from my Fantastic Four commentaries. That's hard to do. That might be hard to do unless you're watching TKN. So thank you so much for being here. Antonio, Julio, Lester, Eric, Gloria, so many we're forgetting out there. Phil, Miranda, Kelly,
I think
who else?
You said a good number of them. Julio, Time, Eric, Salzman, all of them. Yeah. Greatly appreciate your time and what you've been, your energy, your comments. But speaking of energy,
I think Eric's right on target there. Time to switch gears. We had one amazing conversation already this evening. I'm ready for another one. What do you think, Howard?
I'm ready to see this fight, baby. I am ready to see it go down. And guys, remember, all right, to vote, okay? whichever argument resonated with you, that is who you vote for. All right. And let's take some notes because the time is now.
Enjoying these new friendships we're forging. And you know what's cool is we're doing it through this device that's seemingly so lifeless. You know, when people are talking about how we're too connected, I agree. We need to put this thing down and that thing down, but yet we're doing it here virtually, different time zones, Houston, Florida, California, New York. We're doing it through different time zones, and we're creating this bond. And I think it's beautiful because it could remind people that it could be done, that if they have the willingness to get to know people and maybe, of course, dress it up, a little pomp and circumstance, but a whole lot more substance, we can get down to the nitty gritty and walk out as friends. And I'm seeing you guys doing that. And I know that my dad would be honored to be sitting here with you guys. So I just wanted to tell you that.
Oh, that's super. That's super.
Guys and gals and pals watching us right now, you know, we tell you that we give you entertainment and education, a little bit of education we gave you. Now a little bit of entertainment before topic number 2. This is a very quick game. I call this game, I would pay. I'd pay. And Grant, Calvin, and DVon in this game, they would choose which option of the 3 they would pay for and why. They're wacky options. Of course they have to be. They're not options you're ever going to run into in any other walk or space of life. But in these 3 options I provide them, they would let me know which they would pay for to see and why. So we're going to start with Grant Fuhr with these 3 options, my friend, for you. Guys and gals and pals, feel free to play along as well. Grant, if you could pay for one of the following to see and why, which would it be? Rocky Balboa as a neurosurgeon, Seinfeld as a correctional officer, or Rambo the talk show host?
That's an interesting collection. Rambo as a neurosurgeon would be good. I might pay to see that.
He's got the knife, right?
Hey, he's got the knife. He knows how to make an incision.
Yeah,
I'm not sure he'd be real good at sewing things back up again or taking things out, but it would definitely be worth seeing.
Rambo the neurosurgeon would definitely be worth seeing. DVon, I'm going to go to you next, my friend. Rocky Balboa. We'll switch it up. Rocky Balboa, the talk show host, Rambo the neurosurgeon, or Seinfeld the correction officer?
I'm going to have to go with both Sylvester Stallones. Remember, my character comes from Rocky.
Clubber
from
Lang.
Mr. T, Clubber Lang. And
Yes,
of
sir.
course, Samuel L. Jackson from Pulp Fiction. But so I would love to hear Rocky.
I love that.
Try
Are you
this
a
whole
Rocky
show.
fan, DVon? Are you a Rocky fan?
Huge. You know, before Mr. T got involved in it, I was watching Rocky 1 and 2. And
Nice.
then of course Rocky 3 just, to me, that was the best one out of all of them.
Wow.
Because Mr. T was in there. And I had a chance to meet Mr. T. And, you know, with all due respect, I love him to death for men. That man would not stop talking.
I'll get a little trivia for DVon. Which is the only Rocky film in the franchise in which there's a win, a loss, and a draw in the same movie?
A win, Rocky 3.
Rocky 3. Rocky 3.
Yeah, because
He
Rocky
beats Clubber,
lost,
right?
and he wins, and then the wrestling match with Hulk Hogan was a draw.
Yes, I remember the ring announcer saying it's a draw. Thank God, and he walks away.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm gonna ask Calvin the same question. What would you pay for to see and why of these options? We have Seinfeld, the correctional officer. We have Rocky, the talk show host, or Rambo, the neurosurgeon.
Rocky, the talk show host. Because comedy, and that would be very funny to hear him in a talk show host. You don't understand the word he's saying.
But at least he's got backup. If he needs help, all he's got to do is give one of the Adrians, and Adrian will come.
Adrian would be right there to help him.
Right there, DVon. Man, oh man. Guys, a couple of more of these, and then topic 2, we're out. A couple more. Grant Fuhr, which would you pay for to see of the following and why? Hannibal Lecter is a regular cast member of 90210, Big Bird the Bounty Hunter, or Conan the Librarian?
Oh, I'm a big Hannibal fan. I love my horror movies, so.
Oh.
To see him on 90210, it would definitely be interesting.
It would. It would. Do you remember the? Yeah.
The hardest part would be which one would he take out first?
Oh, yes. Well, you know what? It gives new meaning in 90210 to we're going out for dinner.
That would definitely give it a little different touch.
A little bit. I think he'd probably go for Steve Sanders. Steve Sanders, there was the guy who, again, kind of a boisterous guy. Remember those opening credits? It was kind of slow-mo. They would do that dramatic soap opera turn. Can you imagine Hannibal Lecter doing one of those? I'd pay to see that. I would pay to see
that. That would
Hannibal.
be worth seeing.
DVon, my friend, Hannibal Lecter as a regular cast member of 90210, Big Bird the Bounty Hunter, or Conan the Librarian?
Conan the Librarian. Absolutely. Can you imagine him walking in with that outfit and a sword and someone trying to talk and he holds up that sword? You shut up right away.
The grapes of wrath is past due.
Exactly.
Calvin, I want to see where you're going with this, my friend. We got Hannibal Lecter as a cast member of 90210, Conan the Librarian, or Big Bird the Bounty Hunter?
Big Bird the Bounty Hunter. Let me see his ass move.
I think he ruled those streets of Sesame. That's all I'm saying.
Big Bird out here trying to be a bounty hunter, somebody whipping his behind.
Might be Conan the Librarian. Yeah, there you go. And our final one before topic 2. This is our last one. Pretty wacky and a lot of fun here. Grant, which would you pay for to see and why of the following options? Darth Vader, the wedding planner, Godzilla, the massage therapist, or Freddy Krueger, the personal trainer?
Oh, how about Freddy Krueger, the personal trainer? Hey, he might push you to actually extend yourself a little.
I like that. Yes. That's a great line. That's a great tagline. He would probably concentrate on wrist curls a lot, right? Probably.
Yeah, wrist curls. I'm sure you'd listen very well, though.
I like that. I like that a lot. I'm going to ask the same question to Mr. DVon Dudley of the following options. Which you pay for to see and why? Darth Vader, the wedding planner, Godzilla, the massage therapist, or Freddy Krueger, the personal trainer?
You know, I was going to go with Darth Vader. I really was.
Right.
Because, you know, in watching Star Wars, when anybody got him mad, he would take his hand and go like this.
Yes.
And choke him to death. So I could only imagine, you know, if somebody said, you know, if anybody objects, speak now, forever hold their peace, he gets up and does the hand. So I got, that would be hilarious. But I got to say probably Freddy Krueger. Can you imagine him with those hands?
Oh, my God.
If somebody doesn't push the set the right way, he just...
Yeah. Yes. And I wouldn't want him to spot me either with those claws. You're right. That's definitely a no-no.
I have to make sure I got that weight up.
I want you guys to know this is the coolest writer's room ever because we're writing stuff here. This is amazing stuff here. Calvin Murphy, my friend, I'm telling you, you guys got some great ideas here. This is good stuff. Calvin, last one here. Darth Vader, the wedding planner, Godzilla, the massage therapist, or Freddy Krueger, the personal trainer?
Freddy Krueger, the personal trainer. Because I can see the person he's working on yelling, not so hard, not so hard.
Right. And God forbid they actually fall asleep on the bench. Yeah, oh, my gosh. That's a no-no with Freddie around. Guys, again, thank you so much for playing this game along with us. If you have in the living room, thanks to our sponsor, thanks to Grant, Calvin, and DVon. We're about to enter our final topic. We'll get into some other ones down the road with some other wacky options like Alf, attorney at law, Papa Smurf, the hip-hop artist, Mr. Bean, the motivational speaker, Beetlejuice, the runway model, the cast of Goodfellas, the studio audience members on Jerry Springer. We probably would all pay to see all that stuff. It'd be a lot of fun. But guys and gals and pals, we now are going to transition into our final topic. And this time, guys, I'm going to have Grant go first in this very topic. Grant, my friend, this is a thought-provoking topic about life lessons. There have been many, but which lesson in life did you learn the hard way, but still wouldn't trade for anything in the world? Take your time, my friend. The floor is yours whenever you're ready to go, good sir.
Well, I think the biggest lesson I've learned is you can make mistakes and still be successful. Lord knows I've made my share of them, and life is meant to be lived. You don't want to, at the end of the day, go, I wish I would have. I would rather say, yeah, I did that and made the mistake, and here I am on the other side of it. And I've lived my life that way, and that's the biggest lesson I've learned is you can make mistakes, but you don't make mistakes if you don't try. And life's that way. You've got to be able to live your life. Yeah, you're going to make some mistakes along the way, but at the same time, you got to look at the other side of it where you can still be successful even though you've made some mistakes.
Do you feel like mistakes can become discoveries, Grant?
Yeah, most definitely. I mean, you go down different paths over the course of your life. Some are going to be good paths. Some are not going to be good paths. You're going to meet great people. You're going to meet people that are bad for you. And you're never going to know who's who until you go down that path. So you got to take life's lessons from it. And it's what shapes you as a person as a whole.
Was there a particular mistake when you were playing hockey or even growing up that you thought would probably be something you could never be able to combat, and then looking back, you were able to persevere? Because when we're young, we think everything, we put everything up on such a pedestal. All of our problems are the biggest in the world when we're young. did you ever look back in life and go, you know what? I was a kid. I was a youngster. I was a preteen, a teen, or in my 20s, and I thought this mistake I made was the biggest mistake that would probably haunt me for the rest of my life, but it ended up not being such a big deal. Is there anything that comes to mind?
Well, I wouldn't call it a big deal, but most people would call it a big deal. Social media still calls it a big deal, but yeah, I mean, when I made the trip down the wrong road, got involved with drugs and got suspended for a year for it, and then found my way out the other side of it, would I do it all over again? You know what? If it came out the same way and it made me a better person, yeah, I would. I'd rather pay that price than have somebody else go through it.
That's beautiful, man. I'm not, and if it helps you, man, I don't know if a lot of people know this. I didn't even know that, but I do know that you're very brave for saying that. And I want to say something because I want to be right there with you, my friend. When I was in my 20s, recreationally as a screenwriter, there was a lot of drugs going around. And even in the gym, which is something I always valued, there were a lot of guys pushing anabolics, and I took them, and I realized I was taking them recreationally. I was doing something called stacking. I was taking Winstrol and Dianabol, and then Decadurabolin, and then I'd go on cycles, and I would take milk thistle because I didn't want to develop other parts in my body that didn't need to grow. And I'm saying that because I want to share that with you, my friend. Like, I feel like getting off of that made me a better person because it allowed me to look in the mirror and take a deep dive into who I truly am, what my principles are all about. And I had to make a choice. And I think when we're in that position where we can make a choice and we make one for the better, it may not seem like it is at that moment. And it may seem so difficult. But when you look back and realize that you climbed a mountain by addressing something that isn't easy to address, and you did it with a good support system, there's nothing more beautiful than that. You can find out who really is your support system, not when you're up, but when you're down.
Oh, no question.
Yeah,
I mean,
right?
I was pretty fortunate to have great teammates. And the fact that I went through it, I can explain that to my kids. And then that way they don't go through that, go down that road. So that's the other part of it. And then the kids that I work with, you see some kids over at the Betty Ford Center, that sort of thing, that are going through it, and they think that the world's about to end. Well, no, it's just a bump in the road. You just have to find your way out the other side of it. And you're not going to like some of the ways of getting out of it, but at the same time, you're going to be a better person by the end of it.
Your positivity is so cool, man. I know that you're affecting a lot of people right now that feel like they can connect with you on that level. And guys and gals and pals, please, if you take one thing from this program, take away its honesty, because you're looking at three gentlemen who are laying it all out, and they're being very honest about their life's journey, and that's all we can ask for, and we definitely appreciate that. Mr. Calvin Murphy, the same question for you that I pose, my friend. Which lesson in life that comes to mind did you learn the hard way but still wouldn't trade anything in the world for? The floor is yours, good sir.
The sanctity of marriage. The biggest mistake I made was losing my family. You know, you get out there, you live in the good life. You got money in the bank, you got celebrity status. You're out there enjoying what life has to offer and forgetting to where you've come from and how you got to where you were. The biggest thing about the sanctity of marriage, not only losing your wife, but how it affects my children. I'm out working with everybody else's children, and losing my own was a hurtful situation. Now, I tell you that to say this. Would I do it again? My family is stronger than ever because I went out there and found out my mistakes early enough to rectify. I look at Calvin Jr., who learned from my mistakes, and look at my grandchildren, what a great dad he is to them. Calvin Jerome Murphy III is one hell of an athlete, and watching my son nurture him and bring him along the way he is, because he saw the mistakes I made and it didn't infiltrate his life with his family. So the sanctity of marriage was definitely something that I went through that was very unpleasant, but I would go through it again if it meant, and as the future went on, the family would get stronger. My ex-wife and I are better friends now than when we were married.
Now that is really awesome to hear. Wow. I would like to talk to you privately about that. Believe me. I used to be so picky that I once broke up with an ex-girlfriend because she used more of our toothpaste when there was only 10% left than when there was 90%. She had to squeeze that last bit of toothpaste out, that last bit, and it drove me nuts. God almighty. Vanessa, if you're listening, just spring for another 99-cent toothpaste. It won't kill you. All right, guys. But then again, I'm kind of a weird writer guy. I brought this up. I can never wait the full 2 minutes when I'm waiting for a meal to warm up in a microwave. I can never wait 2 minutes. It's like if the guideline instruction says, Avi, wait 2 minutes, I'll wait 1 minute and 57 seconds, and I don't have patience for the last 3. I'll just pull it out. Do you guys, are you the same way? Do you get kind of like, do you lose your patience around the microwave?
I lose my patience, period. You know, that's one of my negatives in life. You're absolutely right. You know, they say, you know, no matter how much you try to improve upon it, it becomes a part of your DNA, you know?
Yeah. Absolutely. That damn microwave. Guys and gals and pals, again, Calvin Murphy, the great NBA Hall of Famer, NHL Hall of Famer Grant Fuhr, WWE Hall of Famer DVon Dudley, giving us their truth, which we appreciate. We're going to kick it over right now, guys and gals and pals, to Mr. DVon Dudley. And remember, guys, there's a lot of people who talk about those who have nothing left to lose, but there isn't enough about people who honor what they've lost. It's okay to honor what you've lost because, again, you might be able to put it behind you and not let it become a ghost of your present. Don't mourn over your own inadequacies. We're not meant to be perfect. We're all flawed, and that's okay. Mr. DVon Dudley, my friend, the floor is yours. I'll set it up again for our audience real quick. Which lesson in life that comes to mind did you learn the hard way but wouldn't trade for anything in the world? The floor is yours, good sir.
I have two. And one is almost similar to what Calvin said about the family because, you know, being on TV, being in WWE, the money, the fame, and all of that with celebrity status, you know, with my first wife, I basically put the business first before I did my family. And that was a big no in any business. And I had to learn the hard way. And like you, Calvin, same as me, my first wife, basically, we were better friends now that we're divorced than we are married. And, you know, we were able to talk to one another and understand one another, even after everything was said and done, even after all the damage. And, you know, the second thing is, you know, I wish I could have been a little bit outspoken in my WWE run. You know, I didn't want to ruffle any feathers, so I kept quiet. And things that I didn't want to do, I did anyway. And not that it destroyed me, but it bothered me. You know, I never wanted to go home, you know, and bring the business home after spending all those years, all those days on the road and then coming back home and bringing it home. I wish I could have been a little bit more outspoken to the powers that be to say, no, I'm not going to do that. Here's what I think. And I learned a valuable lesson. It was only until after my career was over, when I'm with me still working for the company, did I ever get the courage to say no to something that I didn't want to do, or no to something that I didn't feel right about. And it was a learning lesson that I take with me to this day.
And I think that gives hope, man. Thank you for saying that, because there's a lot of, and we're kind of traveling the same circles, and there's a lot of people out there that think that they have to commit so much while losing what really matters in life because they don't speak up. They don't even seek a compromise because they're afraid that maybe they'll be shunned. They'll be let go. They'll be fired. For those that don't know much about pro wrestling, guys, if you think they're well-traveled, you're right. But if you think they've seen a lot, sometimes all they see is a gym. And if they're lucky at 3 a.m., there might be a Denny's open because they hit the town. Maybe they can, get a rent-a-car, maybe squeeze a quick workout, go right into the arena, get anything that's open to eat while trying to remain healthy on the road. And then it's lather, rinse, repeat all over again. 300 days a year, right, DVon?
300 days a year, no break in season.
Incredible. That's absolutely incredible. And again, NHL, NBA, we're talking 8, 9, 10 months, not to mention media, not to mention doing the promotional work that you have to do. Man, these guys dedicate so much of their time to their craft and yet still are incredible family men who right now have all spoken, all three, about the importance of a support system and a family. And I think I am very humbled to be in all of your presence. Calvin, the floor is yours.
Yeah, quickly, DVon and Grant, you know that temptation is a booger bear. And our Christians out there, you say no 1,000 times, but that 1,001 will get you.
Yeah.
It's at every corner.
Every corner.
So what I would like for people to understand, when I used to do the transition program for the NBA and talk to the incoming class about the pitfalls of the business, the first thing I talk to them about is temptation. Don't let temptation get you. I did. And it was an eye-opening for me. I had to go 14 years in the league to find out what my mistakes were from my first year. You don't want that to happen.
Absolutely. You know, it's when you hear your mentors give you advice. Mine was Richard Donner, a really acclaimed director who's no longer here with us. He directed Superman. He directed The Omen. One of the greatest directors who was my mentor. He was kind of like my Mr. Miyagi, because when I met him, I would give him my scripts as a youngster and thinking that they were so great. He would take a look at them like some sort of sensei. And within 2 seconds, realize upon reading the first 5 pages, he goes, "This is crap." And he'd rip it up. And I was like, what's he doing? But then he'd rip it up and go, "See me here again next week, same time." And that's how I got better as a writer. Not by him telling me what I did so well, by him telling me what I didn't do so well. So I could work on those areas and developing that thick skin with all those vices around us. I mean, in LA, living out in Santa Monica, there were a ton of vices around me, man. And, you know, it's all those celebrities that want to find freedom sometimes can't. And that's why when people wonder why are they so depressed, it's because everybody wants a part of you. Everybody wants a part of a Grant Fuhr, Calvin Murphy, a DVon Dudley for what they've done on television, which essentially is a great when it comes to your body of work. But as a human being that wants to peel back those layers and show the world what else you have to offer, it's sometimes difficult when society has cast you as only one thing, It's a real shame, but thankfully, at least on this program, we can all relate to each other as human beings. And I really do appreciate what you guys have provided wholeheartedly. That's why I do this every single day. Calvin Murphy, Grant Fuhr, DVon, before I bid you all adieu, I'm going to talk to Calvin first. Grant and DVon, if you can hang out for 1 second in the back. But before I do that, Grant and DVon, anything you'd like to tell Calvin?
It's a pleasure meeting you.
Oh, absolutely. My pleasure.
Absolutely. A pleasure being on this panel with you. Nothing but respect, and may God be with both of you.
Likewise.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Likewise, definitely.
Is it okay if I kind of give you guys each other's contacts after the show?
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
I'm telling you, they can't get rid of me now.
I love it. Grant and DVon, hang out for 1 second, my friends. And I want to bid you do one-on-one as well. Calvin, I'll bid you do first, my good friend. Man, this is the second round, and I love how sometimes we forget about the prize and the money and the trip to Greece because what's more valuable is getting to know each other. Did you have a nice time, my friend?
Oh, fabulous! Absolutely fabulous.
Thank you.
You know, I've had a kind of a day that you want to forget. But what this did was take me away from the problems of life and get me to think about what the good things that I'm involved with in and to maintain that same direction. So I needed this today.
Thank you, man. I want to take these suckers off and look you in the eye and say, sometimes it's good to know who you don't inspire, because when you find out that you did, it reminds you that we got a whole big world out there that's watching and listening to your mission. I'm one of them. I champion what you do, and getting to know you as a person, it's a gift. So thank you for being you, my friend.
And thank you for being you also. God bless.
God bless you. The great Calvin Murphy. Guys and gals and pals, I want to bring in Mr. DVon Dudley, who I'm envious of. He's outside, and palm trees. DVon, there ain't no palm trees where I grew up in Queens or in Brooklyn where you grew up.
This is why I live in Florida.
I need some of those, man. God, I need those. Man, I want to talk about, first off, your amazing channel, which I'm going to showcase, and I've been doing so. That thing, it is fast rising, and I know why. Because it's engaging, it's fun, and if I want to pass the time while I'm writing, I go onto your channel, I listen to those cool conversations you have, and it feels like I'm in a living room, DVon.
Yes, we have a new video every Thursday.
Okay.
DVon Dudley channel. We reached 100,000 subscribers in 3 weeks.
3 weeks.
In 3 weeks. So I'm very happy, very honored, and very blessed that this is going on. Again, you can like and subscribe to DVon Dudley YouTube channel. And also to get in contact with me, you can contact me on my Instagram, which is at Testify DVon. Please, I answer all my messages and love to talk to the fans.
I love it. I've been continuing to make sure I showcase all of that because, guys, DVon's got so much going on, and he wants you to be a part of it. He wants you to join in on the party and have some fun. My friend, did you have a nice time today?
I had a great time. Thank you. Every time I'm on here, I have a great time.
I appreciate you, my friend. You have a great rest of the evening.
Thank you. You too, my friend.
Thank you, DVon. What a class act, DVon Dudley, Hall of Fame human being. Grant, I love the Hall of Fame moniker because Hall of Fame human beings, Hall of Fame athletes, maybe your names are synonymous with the athlete part, but discovering why you're Hall of Fame human beings is a gift for me. I really enjoy that.
You know what? It's better to give than receive. I still believe by that the more you can give back, the better off you're going to be.
I really love that. And sometimes it takes 5 seconds to talk to a person on screen or on the phone. And, I've communicated with, of course, with your partner, and you guys are down to earth. She's so awesome. And you guys are so down to earth. And, we share a friend in Jim McMahon. Hey, Jim's part of the second round of this tournament. Maybe Jim didn't want to face Grant Fuhr in this match. Maybe that's what it was.
Well, he was my best man at the wedding, so.
Jim, yeah, he's in the second round, and he loves you, and I could see why. I've known Jim for about 5 years, and he always spoke so well of you, and I could see why, and I'm glad that our audience sees Grant Fuhr, the human being. For what it's worth, my friend, I don't say this often, but I like the present, but the real present is your presence, because you really do make people think, and when you speak, there's a truth that resonates. We could pick up on people's BS a mile away. When you speak, there's no BS, and that means a lot to me.
I don't say a whole lot, so I've always been quiet, and it probably took till after I retired where you have enough confidence to just be you.
You're a great speaker, though.
It's part of the learning process, and I think that's the biggest thing. And then somehow I got talked into being media, so I'm still adjusting to that now.
You're doing a great job. Did you have fun tonight, my friend?
I always have fun. Life's too short not to have fun.
Absolutely. Do you kind of like what this tournament and network represents?
I do, and great people. That's the other thing. DVon's awesome. Calvin's phenomenal.
Yes.
I mean, you get to meet super great people.
Well, you're one of them, my friend. I hope you have a great rest of the evening. I will talk to you soon.
Sounds good, my friend.
Absolutely. The great Grant Fuhr, guys. Again, we got to know Grant Fuhr's heart and soul. And whether there's a camera or tape here or not, I'll say the same thing. And I do oftentimes about these great men and women who are part of this celebrity tournament. The real prize, guys, as you know, is getting to know who they are. And the best compliment you guys have given me and these celebrities in the comment section on Saturday nights, guys, is when you say you forgot about the tournament part of it. I like that. I like it because it means that the tournament is the backdrop, and really the real prize is getting to know these human beings who have so much to give, and they're giving that on a platform that will never mute them, that will never suppress them, that will never tell them that they're censored. I want to know what's on their mind and in their heart because there's a lot in there. So we thank them for being the gracious people that they are. Guys, you now are going to vote. 2 out of 3 move on to round 3 of this star-studded tournament, this huge field. Let us know who you're voting for and why. The top 2 vote getters move on to round number 3. We're going to find out very shortly. Thank you again, guys, for being the engine that makes this thing.
That was well worth the wait. That topic was incredible, and where they took it, where they went with it.
Yeah, I'm certainly not going to disagree, Giselle. But it's become almost the standard for every Saturday's free preview event that this happens. But I don't know what it was tonight, but something made me tonight put myself in their shoes a little bit. And we've seen it, how the camaraderie develops. Avi says, "Hey, would you like you?" And they all jumped on it. It wasn't like, well, I mean, everybody was, yeah, we want to talk. But in round 2, one of these gentlemen, and I think that's an apt moniker for these 3 in particular, based on what we say and what the engine members out in the digital seats say, is going to be done. And whether they're that interested in the 15,000, which I doubt, the trip to Greece, maybe, but I think they just want to be able to come back and do this again. And one of them's going to be denied that chance, just like eventually at least 3 of us on this screen will be. That's a little heavy, I think.
Kelly White. Jay's not silent. We got a full house tonight, don't we?
Seems that way. I've wondered where you've been, Howard.
I see you out there too, JW. But Mr. Kelly White, you are here and present. And for the sake of what we got to do now, that is of vital importance to 3 gentlemen who opened up their hearts and minds. The stakes are high. 2 out of the 3 will advance. That is why right now, Mr. Kelly, that is going to override what I truly would like to tell you, because I have to prioritize. Oh, finally I speak. Oh, okay, says the guy who we have not heard from in about 2 months. I'm sorry. Ladies and gentlemen, for you out there commenting, Red Eyes Entertainment is JW, and just watching his moniker and his thumbnail pushes a button. That said, what we saw these 3 gentlemen do, especially in this last topic, was Howard out there stating the obvious. JW, that's for our fans who are first-time viewers, okay? So they can understand the stakes. Do you understand that? Oh, you wouldn't, because you're not here much, are you? You've been... Sorry. We saw these 3 gentlemen open up their hearts and their minds, and it was really beautiful. Grant Fuhr talked about, some of the mistakes he made in his life, and was very earnest about that. And I really appreciate him speaking so honestly about that. And then Calvin. If I don't, it's not like I don't have enough with JW. No, now I got you. I am trying to stay professional. What I was trying to say is that Calvin talked about the sanctity of marriage, and he spoke very eloquently and very openly about those who he affected, specifically his children and his wives. And I thought that was a really, very strong point. And then DVon, also spoke very beautifully about, putting the business first. But what I really appreciated about what DVon talked about is the forces, the external forces that he had to contend with, being specifically the higher ups in the WWE, and not being able to really set those boundaries, which resulted in his marriages his marriage being compromised, only because DVon really kind of talked about, he went into more specifics in terms of dealing with those forces. He's gonna get my vote. But tough choice, and all three gentlemen really spoke it. Kelly, I just did you invite that asshole right there to this party?
No. Though, since I hadn't seen you, he would have probably been a fine fill-in had you flaked out again. But, here's the thing. I didn't come here today for you. I gave you a date. But somehow you take something like we just saw, and again, you've got to make it about your damn self. You voted. Why don't you get the hell off screen?
I did not make it. I was.
Thank you. So who wants to go next? Shall I?
Please.
Fine. Okay. First off, yeah, that was very amazing to see these three gentlemen. Immense respect for each other. You could feel the camaraderie as soon as we got into the game even. They were having an absolute wonderful time with the game. And then they came into the topic. And it wasn't a complex question, but it was a deep question. And, I think we're all of an age where we can look back and probably find a point where we ourselves would have had an answer. But these guys have, world-class experience from their careers. And, I think Calvin Murphy came in and again, he laser focused the question, answered it very succinctly, personally, with depth and passion. There's nothing else that could be said about his answer. And if you've ever, been in a situation where, you had to split up for whatever reason, whether the wife, significant other or what, you tend to look at your mistakes. At least, I think people that have a little something in here do. And sometimes it ends up being a checkup from the neck up. And that's what Calvin, kind of expressed. He took the blame for what happened. He said, it was on me. I made this huge mistake and this is who it affected. And he owns that. DVon, had a similar experience. It's hard to follow, I think, somebody like Calvin who gives an answer of such depth. So DVon, he touched on it, but they also went into how he let the business bully him into doing things he didn't want to do. And the business will bully you into putting it first above anything and everything else if you want to get that level of success. I know because I didn't do it and I didn't get there. And that's perfectly fine by me. DVon took the other route, but he paid, pretty rough price for it. And then we've got Grant. He actually went first. And he talked about, I guess some people didn't know. Avi said he didn't know. I didn't know. So, he had a 1-year battle. He got the fame, got the fortune, jumped into the temptations. Those, what did he call them? Sugar boogers? Bugger sugar? I don't know what it was. Booger bears. Booger bears that Calvin had called it, got that temptation and fell down that rabbit hole. He lost a year of playing. I'm sure it had a lot of other effects, but he did rebound it, and he uses that to say, hey, kids, his kids, other kids, lots of people. So he's giving back through that, which I think is amazing. But the other thing that got me with Grant's answer is he started off with a true pearl of wisdom, and that is that if you've lived life mistake-free, you've not actually lived life, because there's no way to get through it. And I fully agree with him. I would much rather say at the end, wow, I tried that and messed up, than I wish I'd have done that. And for that reason, that pearl of wisdom on top of his giving back, my vote is going to Grant on this one. Giselle, you want to take it next?
Nope, because I hate this part as much as I love this part, but I will. Yeah, all three had really wonderful answers and were very succinct and articulate in explaining how they arrived at the answers and why these are the answers that matter to them. And that's because they affected other people in their lives. So they saw that. They saw what all of these events were doing to their families. And then they remembered how they felt when those relationships came to an end, when they were suspended for a season. Grant and Avi talking about how mistakes can be discoveries, and then Grant and Calvin both wanting the next generation to learn from them and say, hey, don't do what I did. Use me as the example and don't make that same mistake. And then Calvin and DVon are talking about putting the business or the game first, enjoying that celebrity status and how that affected their families. And also DVon went into how he wished he could be more outspoken, how he wished he could have spoken up about things he didn't like or did like, or directions he wanted places to go in the business, which I hear is very difficult to do in that particular field of entertainment, and probably can lead to a lot of regrets, both professionally and personally. But with the detail and the passion that Calvin had, and the real life example that his mistakes weren't repeated by his son and that his family is stronger, my vote is going to Calvin Murphy for this topic. Chad?
Well, normally I have a lot to say, but let me tell you, my vote could possibly a reason one of these three men are going home, and I'm really not too happy about this because I wish all three of them could move on. All three of them have fought with their heart, their soul, proved why they're in this tournament. And I mean, we're all in it for the same reason, but I'm telling you, these three gentlemen have literally brought everything they had into this match.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Where to start? Well, with Calvin, with the problems with his wife and stuff, I can definitely feel and understand on why he came up and he used that his answer and his reasonings on why he did and how much it could hurt the family life. Like, I totally get that. I've been in, oh man, this is so hard. So hard. I've been in those positions to where I've had to make some of these choices myself. DVon, putting the business before the family. being on the road 300 plus days, leaving your family behind. How do you do that knowing that you have a wife, kids? You know what I mean? You're leaving them home to try and give them a better life, but really, is that a better life? Because where's daddy? Where's my husband? Where are they at birthday, at Christmases, at all these times? The family doesn't understand. All they know is daddy's gone. Daddy's somewhere, but why isn't he home? Man, this makes it so damn hard. And then we go to Grant. Grant, well, mistakes, you know, they turn life into if you don't make mistakes, how can you be successful? This has hit me so hard. Like, I mean, it's like a hammer of giving me a taste of my own life. I mean, what he's been through in life, I've been through in life. And I mean, I can't help but resonate with all three of these, because at some point, each of their stories have incorporated something to do with my own life. So how can I just vote for one? I mean, I'm sorry that this has taken me such a long time, guys, but this is very, very important to me that the right people move on for the right reasons.
Mm-hmm.
But for me, I'm going to have to... Grant resonated with me the most, and that's only because you guys know me and what I've been through in drugs and what has been through with me and my family. Having a second chance. And by that the smallest of margin, I'm going to have to, fortunately, make my call and go on this topic with Grant. Where my heart is, it's where my choice lies. I vote for Grant, topic 2.
That's all we can ask, Chad, is that you vote for who resonates with you most, and that's all we can ask of our viewers and our fans and the engine. So if you haven't gotten those votes in yet, make sure you get that in real quick, because with that being said, it sounds like we have some results coming up.
Oh boy.
And it's definitely going to be a sad night losing one of these three this evening. But it is a competition. Only one can win it all. And whether you want that 15 grand or that trip for 2 to Greece or the pride, it's right here.
Yep. Yeah.
Gus, welcome. Welcome. Make sure you go back and watch everything. It's a night you do not want to forget.
Not at all.
But this is round 2, and the stakes are higher and higher with each round.
I almost don't want to know the score, to be honest. Just let me go to bed and, oblivious.
I mean, it's all about. Let's give it up for the. Oof.
Here comes somebody.
Go ahead. Finish that out.
I'm not surprised. And
Yeah.
I'm not surprised.
No.
Murphy really just came alive this time and really just brought so much of his intelligence, his life, his passion, and we saw that with every answer that he uttered. Yeah, Giselle,
He was on point on both topics. And come on, how could a person who's probably the only person in this tournament whose Blazers rival Avi's not advance to round number 3?
I mean, one thing that really gets me about the guy, though, is he's quick-witted. By the same token, he takes his time when he answers, and the dude literally exudes wisdom. He's the kind of guy I go, what is the answer to life, the universe, and everything? Because I know it's not 42. You know what?
It's always 42, right, Chad? You agree? You disagree with Kelly?
That's right. That's right.
And yes, Ed, 3 great men. Absolutely.
That is true. That is true. But yeah, Calvin, very deserving.
Kelly?
Sure, I'll read it. Calvin was the top vote getter, but it went down to the wire for second place in round 2. Many have shown why they can win it all. Calvin did just that. Who joins Calvin in round 3? Are we ready?
Oh boy.
Chad, are you ready?
Oh man.
I'll stay ready, but I don't want to be.
Let's pray to tie, guys. Let's pray to tie.
But we have to have a tiebreaker.
Oh boy, it was real close, according to Avi.
Yeah, ties don't push it through, though. It just at best it gets you a heads up down the road. I mean, we've seen that happen twice, but it would delay the inevitable. So
this is where we all hear that proverbial drum roll, man.
Yeah.
Who will it be? Who will it be? Amazing second topic as well, Mr. Klein. Oh boy, here we go.
Here we go.
Oh, okay.
I mean, did Grant score the winning goal, or did DVon didn't find a time? Deserving as well. I mean, I really wanted to see DVon move on, but you know me, I vote for what speaks to the the heart, and that was Grant tonight. So sorry, DVon.
DVon, we've loved having you in here. You were great in your 11th round. You were great in this. Let's give DVon a hand. Congrats to Calvin and Grant for moving on. And DVon, thank you for gracing us with your wisdom and presence and knowledge. And hopefully this is not the end of you on TKN.
Nope.
But we really appreciate you sharing your heart. Chad, do you have a favorite moment from DVon?
I mean, DVon's just been amazing. Like, I think just the amount of passion that he brings into his being on screen and doing what he does. Like, he tells his truths, he gives his moments, and he doesn't hold back. He tells you exactly what's on his mind, and that's a great thing about TKN. Is in TKN you get everybody for who they are and what they think about, and DVon just did that for all of us. So for me, anyways, it was very much a pleasure to have DVon in this tournament. I would love to see DVon again very soon, sometime in TKN in any kind of capacity.
Well, you know what they say, Chad. With TKN, you just never know. We've seen that. I'll tell you what got me with DVon, though, is when Avi brought him on, and Avi was talking about the palm trees, and without missing a beat, he's like, "That's why I live in Florida."
Hey guys, all I can say is job well done. Job well done. I saw the look on your faces. I saw the nonverbals. I could tell that you guys were struggling, as would I. And the reason why I'm using this old flyer is because this is when it started, March 22nd, last Saturday night. Calvin Murphy, Grant Fuhr, and DVon Dudley, they took us through quite the journey. And I think what happened last week, without, again, sounding a bit too sappy or too flowery, it's another example of how life can give you pearls when you think you've stepped on manure. We had tech issues last week for the first time during a pre-tape, guys and gals, of a match that you saw air. The second half of it aired tonight. We didn't think there'd be any tech issues, but that turned out to be a blessing because all week long, there was a cliffhanger. We were waiting to see how this would turn out. We got to experience DVon, Calvin, and Grant twice in this tournament in round number 2, twice in succession. But you know what is even more awesome, guys? As I bid him adieu, the guy to my right. We're going to say goodnight to Kelly because we get to experience Kelly every single day. And I want him to hear this live because sometimes you got those friends who are amazing and courteous when it's a one-on-one conversation, but they don't know who you are in a party sometimes. I don't like those friends. They're not real friends. I could say this publicly. What this guy is behind the scenes is A, leader, B, supportive, C, intelligent, D, caring, E, hospitable, F, honest, and 6 is all about family. He knows what counts in this life. He puts his priorities ahead above anything else, but yet is still very civil and gracious and very grateful to be a part of this, but not as grateful as I am to have him a part of this thing. That's, as they say in pro wrestling, a shoot. Kelly White. I don't say this just because brown nosing because he's got 55 prizes that he's won, and he might not. And maybe this will, if we somehow, if our paths cross, maybe this will convince him to not use 52 of those prizes against me. But he needs to hear that. So guys, why not? We don't have to wait for birthdays and anniversaries because we're TK. We don't have to wait for special occasions to give someone a round of applause for being Kelly White. Let's give him a round of applause right now. Howard, I know it's tough for you.
We're all going to give this man
We're all going to give this man a round of applause.
Great job,
Kelly. The floor is yours before we bid you adieu. Let's give Kelly a solo layout. So a live mic, guys. Let's not say a word. Kelly, the floor is yours, bro. Anything you want to say to our audience? All you.
Hey, guys out there, everybody watching live, everybody that's going to watch this down the road. I mentioned this earlier, just a little bit. You hear people talking about something different. You know, I'm looking for something different. I need something different. You know, I need a change. Well, you're looking at it, not me. No, TKN. Think about it. Think about what this show in its entire capacity, whether it's tonight's green room in the tournament, Giselle's jam, in details, just a straight up conversation with somebody like Chris Sarandon. You know, where's the yelling and the tantrums and the arguing and the finger pointing and the name calling? It is not here. It's everywhere else. But it's not here. And that's part of the reason. It's not even part of the reason. It's the reason I'm here. This is the something different. So if you're not seeing it, open your eyes. And if you see somebody saying it, point them in this direction because it's well worth the trip.
Appreciate that, guys. Kelly White, in details. You're going to see it very soon. Stay tuned for your local listings on our Facebook pages and more. And, of course, the Dungeon Master Challenge. That's coming sooner than you think. Some good breaking news that I might break it to you on the Black Box. Kelly might break it to you this week on one of his posts. And, of course, in a couple of weeks' time, as we bid Kelly adieu, he can run, but he cannot hide. Howard Collado is finally, guys and gals, going to find out, along with Kelly, who this sheriff is in 2 weeks. And I say he can't hide because this guy, if you watch the show tonight, Howard, he's watched you swimmer, he watched you unfocused, and I guarantee you, you will be focused when you meet this man because you'll have no choice. Kelly seems to be prepared for that moment. You seem to be a bit, I don't know, Kelly, a little flustered if I would use a word perhaps to describe Howard's body language tonight. JW got to him as well, got under his skin. If you show that, if you're going to allow anybody to get under your skin when you face Kelly White in your final match with him, for all the prizes that one can imagine and even more that have been announced, you have got to get your head straight. Howard, any final thoughts for Kelly before we bid him adieu?
Kelly White. Mr. White. I'm going to try and stay focused as I say this. Mr. White, I'm a man who, I guess you could say unconsciously, likes to stir a pot. And I sometimes like when my back is against the wall. Seems to bring out things I never knew existed. And I'm just going to shoot it straight as well. I respect you. You're a competitor. I've seen what you are capable of doing. Wednesday nights and Saturday. Let's just face it. You're my Goliath. And I'm your David. But we know how that ended, didn't we?
Yeah, Howard. But in this place, we don't throw stones. Sorry for that, Kelly. You are class personified, and I wish you a great night. In about 5 seconds or less. Any words you'd like to direct towards Howard?
Flinch.
Kelly White, guys and gals. Howard, I hope you take heed. I hope you take heed, my friend. Howard, Chad, Giselle, let's bring you in here. Howard, you've had quite the night over here. Kelly White is not someone who I would try to rattle because it doesn't seem like you will. But how about this? JW concurs. Staying focused, that would be a new thing for you. All I hear you in the back is calling this guy a snake and calling him this. Hey, man, he's trying to enjoy the show. He was watching Grand Fuhr, DVon Dudley, one of his favorites, Calvin Murphy. He's a basketball fan like myself. And here you are, according to JW, making it about yourself instead of the trio of Hall of Famers, the Hall of Fame trio, Howard. So we'll discuss that later on the Black Box. Guys, right now I want to give it up to another Canadian winner. Grand Fuhr is one, but we got another Canadian hero right here. Chad, guys. Chad, top 10. Listen, I want to give this guy his roses publicly again because for all those watching, Suits and Ties and otherwise, and all of you, Gloria Westcott, Safari Crosby, Eric, Lester, of course, Mr. JW in the house as well. Gus is there. Joe, I see you. Julio, I see you right there as well. Gloria, Ed, everyone who's watching. Chad, listen, this man is Mr. Consistent. This man not only bleeds TCAN, he bleeds humanity. To bleed TCAN is to bleed humanity. That's true. Whether some of the cynical sorts out there like it or not, I really don't care. I like being in this bubble. This is a good bubble to be in. This is a bubble that's not going to burst because what we do over here speaks humanity, it screams morality, and we have a whole lot of fun being creative as well. So there's really no downside, and there can't be one when Chad is a part of what we do. Chad top 10, might be Chad top 1 in my book. This man's an amazing guy. Hey, don't fault him for being up there in Canada in the Great White North. That's not his fault. We respect him regardless. And, of course, I tease. I love Canada, and I love Chad. So let's give Chad a round of applause right now.
Thanks, everybody. I appreciate that.
Appreciate you a ton, my friend. On Saturday night, we got Chad here, guys. Again, please message him. Give him some love. Not that he's asking for it, but I'm telling you right now, this man is a workaholic. He works a ton, supports his family, does what he does, but is here for TCAN all the time and is so very passionate, so very thoughtful. And don't forget, he's got a match looming on the horizon. He's got his second round match. I know, Chad, I know. You were chomping at the bit for this thing.
I definitely am, Avi. You know me, my man. Always need some competition, some excitement in my life, and I just can't wait. I hope it's my turn coming up soon.
It is, and you got to stay tuned to the Black Box, guys and gals, because maybe it'll be a reshuffling of the deck for Chad's match, maybe not. That's Wednesday night. This is Saturday night right now, of course. And guys, give it up for Giselle as well. A third rounder, does so much, so very much for this network behind the scenes. And for that matter, so does Howard Collado. So Chad and I are going to give it up to Howard and to Giselle for being who they are behind the scenes as well. Good stuff there to these two, no doubt about it. Guys, that's what it's all about. It's all about respect. Look, the tournament sometimes brings the worst out of people, but not in this place, although I'll say the Green Roomers who are experiencing the celebrity tournament, the Green Roomers who've never had a chance to compete on this level, if they stay focused, they are no underdogs, as Chad has always said. They are not underdogs. Anybody can win this thing. We've got a long way to come. How about Chris Sarandon? Let's all give it up for Mr. Chris Sarandon, who came out of nowhere. He came out of nowhere. Nobody expected Chris Sarandon, an Oscar nominee for Dog Day Afternoon, his role as Leon, and then his great body of work on stage, his great body of work in film and television. This man's a pioneer. This man gave Susan Sarandon her first break. Of course, married her a bit later. An absolute plethora of information this guy is. Doesn't do a lot. Are you going to see him in this tournament? You might. You may want to hold your breath on that. You may want to hold your breath. And if Chris Sarandon comes and opens these doors, you might be looking at an instant contender, Pierre Kelly. Chris Sarandon, yeah, absolutely was great. You never know what you're going to get on TKN. 3 Hall of Famers and an Oscar nominee? Just take that in for a second. In 2.5 hours, 3 Hall of Famers and an Oscar nominee all appearing, 1 tournament match, 1 celebrity conversation. So, hey, a technical blip, only TKN could turn that negative into a positive, and we did that tonight. Plus, we're not done because right now the outro is going to give you a sneak peek into next week's match. Guys, this is the 11th hour of round number 2. Will it be an 11th hour match next week? I'll tell you this much. We don't have many more second round matchups to go. We've got the Green Roomers. We've got some big guns. On purpose, still to come, Jesse Ventura in his second round match. Still to come, Mick Foley in his second round match. Still to come, Mariel Hemingway in her second round match. Still to come, Jake the Snake Roberts in his second round match. Still to come, Mark Henry, JBL, Stevie Ray. There is a ton of talent. Joe Montana that I've still not participated along with Green Roomers. Chad, Phil, of course, Howard Collado, JW, Miranda, Joe. There's still some matchups, but we're nearing the final lap of round number 2. So right now, if you've watched this far, do not go anywhere because you can watch a bit longer as we find out. Howard and Chad and Giselle, we find out who is
next.
Got all the talent in the world, but are you obsessed? Is it all you ever think about?
We watched how respectful they were, and that moment shaped how I dealt with people somewhat.
Deal with your stuff first. Deal with your demon. If it's demons, if it's triggers, fix them. Become aware of them, because sometimes those triggers makes you react to other things.
Green probes the right side, breaks through 40, 45, 50, off to the races, 65 yards, Ahmad Green.
Green scored on the second play from scrimmage.
Okay, Muddy Waters was awesome. Nobody forgets about Chess Records, but Muddy Waters, they came over to see him.
You know, like I said, we got trained by really some of the greatest wrestlers of all time, and it's an honor have learned that, you know, and that's what kind of style we came up with. And it was kind of different style. It wasn't.
Man, dude, tap the gloves. Drago's gloves won't go nowhere. He said, you will lose. You will lose. And then, about 2 minutes later, Apollo Creed is on life support.
My dad was Jamaican. Came to the United States in 1948. First guy from the family off the island. He went to Howard University.
Later on that year, Gene DeJura showed up in my hometown. He was a history teacher, and he decided that pitching might be my best avenue. That's something that a lot of pitchers really don't focus in on. When you go to the plate, don't be an easy out. Try to help your ball club in a lot of respects. Sure, you can sacrifice yourself by bunting.
Hunger. There's a lot of people starving as much as in this country as we say it's not happening here in America. It's supposed to be a first world country and all that. Now, still parasites here, still people starving in this country.
Look at that straight knee.
But Boston also was so serious that they did something called gamesmanship. When other teams would come to play there, they would turn the heat up in their locker rooms.
Yes.
And not give them air conditioning. My mother, hardest working person I ever met in my life. And I mean, she had like 5 jobs. Like she cleaned houses and cooked entire meals that she didn't eat.
Because when we, as the United States of America, are afraid of something, we'll go along with whatever the government wants to do because they told you to be afraid.
If you look at auto racing, there's drag racing, there's NASCAR, there's IndyCar, there's dirt. They're all racing, but they all got their own niche and style.
We kind of respect anybody who has anything important to say and positive to say. Jesus said some good stuff. Buddha had some good stuff. Muhammad said some good stuff.
I live by the motto, everybody has a story and nobody gets a free ride. So, I mean, I have my story, you have yours.
Rolling out by it's garbage, the Republicans say. Don't pay any attention to it. I find that very ironic, considering the book is hugely thick, and there is only one Democrat who's in the book testifying. I didn't sit back when I was 18, 20 years old and say, I'm going to take political science. Someday I'm going to run for governor, or be mayor first. I'm going to be a mayor first, then I'm going to be governor. I didn't plan nothing like that. I didn't even plan to wrestle. Yeah. Things just fell into place.
Our limitation, it's holding us back. Technology and how easy it is for us to get things. I can pick up my phone and Uber Eats food to my house. I don't have to cook. I don't have to clean. I don't have to do anything. It shows up.
If I fought 10 times or maybe 5 times, I knocked out 5 people in a row right now, and I'm the best in the world, I think I might get a call.
Sure.
But if I'm not fighting top talent and beating top talent, he runs the UFC, runs the best fighting organization in the world.
Words were, maybe he was gonna hurt himself, maybe he wasn't. But I just wanted to make sure that he was all right. So I sat and talked with him for maybe 15 minutes or so. Mainly he talked. And I just sat there, I listened.
In fact, he reveled in the fact that he could do that he could say, listen, you know what, you still have 11 months left in your presidency, but tradition states there are other things that have happened this way, and we are going to block anything that you bring up.
This particular piece seems to have some type of a fungus.
Told by the doctors after that he would not be able to play music again, ever. You shouldn't even look into it. And at that moment, he fashions himself some pieces of soap and some leather, and he makes little finger caps for himself.
In the last 2 decades, the conversation about SMU's fall from grace has changed even more. Many are wondering whether or not there should be penalties for players at all.
The Honeymooners, all the iconic deals. And you look back in 1955, the top 5 TV shows on the air was The Honeymooners.
He felt that he was losing a step, and Jack was one of these guys that had so much pride in his work and how he moved, and how he looked and all that stuff, that he wouldn't settle for anything less than.
It's the guy who's willing to die who's going to win that itch. And I know if I'm going to have any life anymore, you got to look at the guy next to you. Look into his eyes. Now, I think you're going to see a guy who will go that inch with you.
You know what? Maybe one of the world's problems will get solved by listening to this show.
Avi, I'm going to win this whole thing. Watch. I know you are, Tom.
Chad? Chad, my friend?
Yes, sir.
Let's give everyone our very best and wish them a great night.
Definitely can. Everybody, it's been an amazing night and a pleasure to be on this show and to present to you guys another incredible night, the only way TKN can. You guys are what make this go each and every Saturday night, and it is a pleasure always to see each and every one of you guys in the comment section each and every Saturday night. Without you guys, we would never be who we are. So with that being said, I just want to say thank you from all of us to all of you.
and have an amazing night. Love yous all.